The City Commission meeting of the City of St. Pete Beach. Today is Tuesday, January 27th, 2026. It is 6 p.m. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The clerk, if you can please do a roll call.
Vice Mayor Marriott.
Here.
Commissioner Robinson.
Here.
Commissioner Maldonado.
Here.
Commissioner Reznicki. Here. Mayor Petrilla.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the agenda as proposed?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add dogs off leash to the discussion.
Okay.
And I have two items.
Okay.
I'd like to add a discussion item of Upham Beach employee parking
Okay.
and also email distribution on voting issues.
Okay.
And Mayor, I'd like to add legislative lobbying update.
Thank you. Are there any other amendments to the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
City Clerk, if you can please call roll.
Member Robinson.
Yes.
Member Reznicki.
Yes.
Member Maldonado.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott.
Yes.
Mayor Petrilla.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we move on to presentations. The first one is recognition of the employees of the first quarter.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to have you all approve the Zoom appearance of Commissioner Reznicki from Tallahassee as an exigent circumstance and put that on the record.
Okay, City Clerk, if you can please, well, actually, we need a first and a second.
I second. I make a motion to approve Commissioner Reznicki doing a Zoom call for this meeting.
Yeah, I second.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Maldonado.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott.
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson.
Yes.
Commissioner Reznicki.
Yes.
Mayor Petrilla.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. Back to recognition of employee of the first quarter.
Thank you, Mayor, City Commission, and community members. I'm pleased tonight to introduce actually 5 employees of the quarter, and this is a direct result from our internal recognition committee, which has primarily been led by Davida Thomas and Rita Bishop in working together with a collective group of employees to basically bring improvements to our internal employee recognition. And through a survey, the employees voted that instead of 1 employee of the quarter with a $500 award, that they would prefer to have 5 employees recognized each quarter with a $100 award. So it's a win-win for everyone. No additional cost to the program, but at the same time, we get to recognize more people. We have recognition groups separated by departments, as well as merging the resident services department with library, because they primarily serve the residents, and we looked for like work groups, and our internal services department, which is the city manager's office, finance, IT, and code enforcement. So with that, tonight, if I call your name, if you could please come up here, and then once I recognize all of you, the mayor and I will come down and present your certificates and give you, and take a picture. So I'll start off with our residential services winner, Leanna Grimes. This summer, Leanna was promoted to library assistant in charge of circulation, and she has quickly embraced the responsibilities of her new role. She demonstrates strong organizational skills, ensures smooth daily operations, and consistently provides outstanding service to both patrons and staff. Leanna has shown initiative in learning new systems, adapting to challenges, and supporting her team with professionalism and a positive attitude. For our Internal, if you want to wait to clap at the end, we can do that too. Internal Services, we have Chris Tarkenton. Chris is a cornerstone of the Finance Department and a vital contributor to the city's success. In addition to his role as Senior Financial Analyst, he assumed significant responsibilities within the Accounting Division during an exceptionally challenging fiscal year. These efforts included the implementation of a new ERP system, the transition to a new chart of accounts, and the management of multiple critical deadlines. For our fire department, Captain Lance Volpe. Although a newer member of the city, Captain Volpe has quickly made a meaningful impact. He has developed training programs to enhance patient care and consistently seeks opportunities to improve the services provided to our citizens. Captain Volpe is also deeply committed to supporting the mental well-being of his coworkers by advancing peer support initiatives. He has taken the initiative to identify caregivers who work with the city's insurance to assist fire department personnel in managing the stress and trauma inherent in their work. For community development, we have Joanne Boland. Joanne has proven to be an invaluable asset to the city, particularly during the challenging period following the hurricanes. Her commitment to exceptional customer service is evident in every interaction as she consistently goes above and beyond to assist residents and contractors. With her extensive knowledge of local regulations and requirements, Joanne ensures applications are processed efficiently while providing clear communication that helps simplify the very complicated building permit process. And in our Public Services Department, we have Luke Jacobson. Through consistent communication, hands-on leadership, and a deep respect for the expertise of each crew member, Luke has successfully gained buy-in across all divisions. His ability to foster collaboration and mutual respect has strengthened the work culture, resulting in improved morale, streamlined operations, and a renewed sense of purpose among crews. We sincerely appreciate the hard work and dedication of each of these employees and what they bring to our city every day. Thank you for your professionalism, positive attitude, and a continued support of each of your departments.
See if we can all squeeze in. All right, next we have our legislative update.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Adam Poyer, Assistant City Manager. Similar to the state lobbying update that we provided to you a couple meetings ago, we have our federal lobbyist from Becker here to give you a federal legislative update. So I'm going to turn it over to their crew to introduce themselves, and they're going to flip through the PowerPoint.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great. Well, thank you for having us. My name is Sadie Hare. I am one of your federal lobbyists up in D.C. I'm originally from the Tallahassee area, used to work for the Florida House of Representatives, and have been in D.C. for the last 4 years. I am accompanied by my colleague Shannon Duncanson, who I'll allow to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me as well. Looking forward to presenting to you all tonight. Like Sadie said, Shannon Duncanson, I am one of your federal lobbyists up here in DC. I'm also from the Tallahassee area and have been up here in DC the last 3 years. I will kick it back over to Sadie to start, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
All right. Can you all see my screen okay?
Yes.
All right. So it's a new year. There's new priorities that are coming out of, the Trump administration and Congress itself. So we're just going to quickly run through what that looks like. Of course, by the time I made these slides, everything's already changed. We are working under a continuing resolution, given the shutdown that previously happened during the fall months. That CR is until 3 days from now, January 30th. And right now, a lot of these bills have already passed. They've gone to the Senate. A lot of them have been signed off by the president. I mentioned the Commerce, Justice, Science bill. That's already passed through. Really, the only one that we are, experiencing a holdup with right now is the Department of Homeland Security. So that includes as well as FEMA. So everything that's been happening in Minnesota has kind of shifted a lot of the perspectives under, getting this DHS bill passed. So everybody's shifting their focus onto that. I've had a lot of people ask if the government would be shutting down if this can't pass. I don't suspect it will. My hunch is they will do another continuing resolution, keep it open. But right now, what they really need is about 7 Democrats to vote for it. But again, given what's been going on in Minnesota, that's going to be a tough feat. So, that's something that we're monitoring closely. THUD is good to go. It's really just focusing on DHS and, FEMA. So under that DHS bill, FEMA would be receiving a $4.7 billion increase. I think 26 million of that is towards the disaster relief fund. So that is something that would be very beneficial if it's able to pass. But again, we are monitoring that and we are tracking it very closely. And I'm going to kick this over to Shannon to go through this.
So, of course, our historic government shutdown that we experienced in the fall was due to the ACA subsidies. There was a fight over the extension of them, and as we know, by the end of the year, they did not extend the subsidies. However, there is a lot of talk in Congress of what an extension may look like. On this slide, you can see a couple different ideas that have been floating around. The House earlier in January actually passed a 3-year extension, and it is still waiting to be heard in the Senate. There is a group of bipartisan senators who have formed a working group to come to some sort of deal around the Affordable Care Act subsidies. They're talking about doing maybe a 2-year extension rather than a 3-year extension that the House passed earlier this year. But all of this is now on hold because of the appropriations deadlines that are coming this week. As Sadie mentioned, I can imagine that Congress will get back towards this discussion around the Affordable Care Act subsidies and addressing an extension once we have an appropriations deal. Earlier last week, when they released the last tranche of appropriations bills, which included the transportation and the labor, health and human services bills, they included a health extenders package in there as well, but notably they did not include an extension of the ACA subsidies. And so we're monitoring this closely, and like I said, I expect that once we have a deal on the appropriations front, this will be one of the next things that Congress addresses.
All right. Everybody's favorite topic is the FEMA Review Council. So we are still waiting for their formal recommendations. We're hoping that that'll come soon, but again, it's everything that's happening with the DHS bill. It's kind of slowed things down a bit. And what I can tell you is I've been going to the National Association of Counties meetings where, they're talking with the review council. They're, telling us what's being said. From what we have heard, the review council doesn't really get along. It's kind of all just jumbled up right now. But, last time I went to the meeting, this is some of the information that they provided to us. They're moving towards a 50-50 cost share model. So that would be, also including 75% federal, 25% for state for disaster cost shares. They're looking at changing the name of FEMA to the National Office of Emergency Management, which is also NOM. So that was an interesting one, as well as, providing funding through block grants rather than direct administration. I can say under the DHS bill, they've also included, stopping the pause of BRIC grants. So that's your resiliency grants. So that would be very notable if, they were able to bring BRIC back into this cycle. $20 billion towards the hazard mitigation grant program. They're discussing that right now. There's a lot of momentum behind that. There's a lot of momentum behind the FEMA Act. So the FEMA Act, it's, trying to keep FEMA as a standalone agency. It would be cutting staff even more. They're very short staffed right now. So everybody's really looking at the FEMA Act right now. So hopefully after the DHS stuff passes through, we'll have more of an idea and we can get these recommendations from the review council. Right now, it's just all kind of a mess, which seems to be on par for FEMA. But I'll get to a lighter note here. So congressionally directed spending. This is a really good opportunity for you all. They are also known as earmarks. So every year, members of Congress get 15 projects that they're able to choose from. Those projects typically span between $500,000 to $1 million, usually the sweet spot. This is funds that pretty straightforward. Early on, there's no reporting requirements. There's no match requirements. What you do is you find, things that you need around the city. So for example, if you have, sewer lining issues, if you have transportation issues, if you have anything coming out of your police department, anything to that nature, anything that benefits the community that really needs help, that's where you would commit to submitting an earmark request. So last year, we tried to submit one. I think we signed y'all a week too late, so it didn't get to go through, but it is opening up again this year. So the process, it's usually opening February. We're still anticipating, despite everything that's going on, to maintain that February timeline. Typically, we would see deadlines in April. I think that we will maintain that as well. And then after the fact, again, it's pretty early on that we'll know if the project's going to go through or not. I would say probably within 3 weeks of submission, we would get a clear understanding. And so let's say it does. Then it goes to committee, where the committee votes on it. Those are typically the summer months. And then after they vote on it, and if it passes through, it'll then go into law in the fall. Then in the winter, you would receive those funds, and you would have 6 to 8 weeks to draw down those funds. So this is a really good time to be thinking about, what around the community you need funding for. It's a simple process on your end. I would be the one drafting up the language for you. I would be the one submitting the request on your behalf, and taking it from there. So again, very straightforward. That process opens up again soon. So start thinking about things that you would like to request funds for, and I'm happy to hop on another call with you all individually or all together, and we can go through those items. And that's it. So if you have any questions, our information's on the screen. but I'm happy to take any questions you have now as well.
Commissioner Maldonado.
Hi, yes, Sadie, I just want to go back to one point that you said and just get some clarification and also hopefully make sure that doesn't happen again. But you said that we submitted one project but missed the submission period. What was the reason that we missed that? And if you can comment on that, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So you all signed with us at Becker a week after your Congresswoman had her deadline. So we just barely missed it. We still got it in front of her. She is aware of the project, but she wasn't able to extend her deadline due to committee.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, next presentation is on the capital improvement plan, first quarter update.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Charter officials. For the record, Camden Mills, Public Services Director. I appreciate your time this evening to give you an update on the capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2026 through quarter one. So this will cover October of 25 through December of 25. Last December, we showed a brief overview of our 5-year capital improvement plan. In total, it's about $213 million. In our fiscal year 26, we have budgeted just over $58 million, and you can see the various funds that accomplish that $58 million. It's important to note that all money that's shown in here is currently city funding sources. This does not reflect any future FEMA reimbursements that we would receive through storm damage. So tonight I would like to drill into the funds that are managed by the Public Services Department. So you'll see on here, this is a large portion of our capital improvements, about 30 million of the 31 million. And then all of our reclaimed water, resiliency, stormwater, and wastewater funds. So on the previous slide, our total annual CIP was about $58.7 million. What we're going to be going through today is the portion of that, the 56.6. That's our major construction type projects that would be managed through Public Services. Currently, through quarter one, the city has encumbered 24% of our planned spending through fiscal year 26. And when we speak encumbered, that's money that has been committed through issued purchase orders. So about a quarter of the way through the fiscal year, we're about a quarter way committed. Since this agenda was published, we have encumbered an additional $1 million. So currently we're about $11.4 million encumbered right now in our budget. As we move along, this is something we're going to continually track, to make sure we're on progress. I think it's important to note, as we kicked off this first quarter of our fiscal year, we got our new CCNA contracts with engineering vendors approved and issued a new finance software. So working through those challenges, I think we're in a pretty good spot right now as we stand. You will notice on this slide at the far right end, we have a column for reappropriations for fiscal year 27. So that's important to note that the full $56.6 million that we budgeted for this year, we don't plan on spending all of that amount. Some of that will be reappropriated to a future fiscal year, and the purpose of that is a carryover for some of those larger type projects, like the Paso Way seawall replacement, the Boca Ciega Drive roadway reconstruction, Master Force Main 1 replacement, some of those projects where we collect budget over a course of years to implement those. This stacked bar chart that you see here, this just shows the budget mapped out against the various strategic initiatives that we've proposed through our strategic planning process. And this compares the amount of encumbered funds versus the budgeted funds. So what this really highlights here is that a bulk of our capital improvement plan is either in recovery, resiliency and sustainability, or reliable infrastructure. So that's a bulk of our focus this current year. And as you can see with the stacked bar chart comparison, we still have a lot of work ahead of us this year. This pie chart here, this just again shows the capital improvement plan broken out by the strategic initiatives and shows that pie chart view, which again reflects that a bulk of our program is either in recovery or reliable infrastructure. Here, this just shows the total amount budgeted this year and what proportionate percent of the CIP for each of those strategic initiatives. And then we include a table with the total number of projects that's assigned to each of those initiatives. So in total, we have 53 projects that our Public Services is currently tracking. So next, I'd like to highlight how do we deliver these projects. 53 as we went through our budget process this past year. We knew that was very ambitious, and we knew there was a lot of work ahead. So we have to get a good strategy in place to be able to implement and deliver these projects, especially given that we have a small staff size. So how we have structured that is we have a city project manager who is overall tracking the capital improvement plan. We hired that person on at the end of September of last year, so they're quickly getting up to speed with what our long-range goals are. And then we structure below our city manager with outsourced professional services, and then through that we have 2 layers of city oversight. So again, our project manager, their main role is to process documents such as purchase orders, invoices, pay applications, and submittals. They maintain the overall capital improvement plan tracking, as well as managing our consultants, our contractors, and our city subject matter experts. Each of our capital improvement plan projects has a city subject matter expert assigned to it. They provide technical guidance, review of the deliverables, and then support the project manager to make sure that tasks are being accomplished on time. And then separate from our subject matter experts is our professional consultant teams. So these are consultants I mentioned. A lot of these came on board in September of last year. These are the folks that handle planning, design, and construction support services for our project, and really serve as an augmented staff. Being that we have a small staff in-house, we rely on our professional consultant teams to provide those professional engineering, architectural, utility engineering, structural engineering type designs for us. And then they also manage the various sub-consultants that may be on a project. So together, while we do have one city project manager, there is a large team that's associated with helping deliver these projects. Next, I would like to highlight an initiative we're working on with our Projects Tracker dashboard. Here, the goal with this is for transparency and accountability. We want to provide a clear and consistent way for our public and for our constituents to understand the status of our various capital projects. Currently, we're working with our IT department as well as our part-time GIS analysts to create this dashboard. We're basing this off of a template that we've seen from other communities, but the goal of here is to have an interactive map that you can access on our website, sort of like a Google Map aerial view, where you'll be able to see the different project locations throughout the city, click on that various project, and then it'll come up with a description of it, what the budget is, the timeline. You'll be able to sort projects by the strategic initiative, what the various status is and which phase they are, and which district that project is located in. Our goal here is it'll also include performance metrics, such as scheduling, and then automated data feeds. So as our city project manager is working with the subject matter experts to update the status and notes on our project, it'll automatically feed into this interactive dashboard, so we'll have real-time updates here. With this, we see this continuing a continual process that we'll build off of over the years. Long term, we'd like to start tracking historical trends, maybe have a resident feedback portal that can be incorporated into this tracker. But we're hoping to have this launched here before our next quarter update, so we can share the progress with that. Also, I'd like to give an update on some work we're doing with our capital improvement plan branding. The purpose here is to use for public-facing materials such as handouts, posters, our website, and social media posts. Shown on this screen are just a few example ideas, but really the goal here is to have consistent messaging on how we're tracking our capital improvement program. In the example that I showed here, we have the slogan, "Taking action today, protecting tomorrow." That was a slogan that was voted on by our department directors as a tagline that we can use. And then moving forward, we'll be working with Mark and our communications for an image and how we can properly use the branding for this program. So next, I'd like to get into the status of our capital improvement plan through quarter one which is through December of 2026. This pie chart here just shows graphically where the different phases of those 53 projects fall. So you can see a large percentage of our projects right now are in that design or procurement phase. Our goal as we continue into Q2 is to continue moving projects through the various phases. The projects right now, we have 5 that have not started. We want to get those started and into the queue, and then continue to move the ones through design into active implementation, and ultimately those ones in construction towards closed and complete. And next, I'd like to give a little bit more detailed updates on the 10 projects that we have that are in the implementation active construction phase. First of which is our 36th Avenue seawall replacement. This falls under the Strategic Initiative for Reliable Infrastructure. The budget for this was $650,000. Currently, the construction contracts have been awarded. KM2H is going to be providing the seawall replacement. And then Harris McBurney is going to be providing the roadway and drainage improvements. So the permits for this have been secured. Some of the construction materials, the stormwater inlet box structures have been delivered and are at our staging site. And right now, we're pending Duke. They will be relocating an electrical line that's impacted by the limits of our construction. So once that line is relocated from 36 to Casablanca, then the city work will come in after. So that's been a little bit of delay that we didn't anticipate, but we do still plan on completing this within our contract limits for May of 26. Next is our dune walkover replacements. This falls into the Strategic Initiative for Recovery, Resilience, and Sustainability. A few of these were damaged either by our 2024 storms or prior storms. So we're looking at replacement at 7 different locations. We did apply for a FEMA Public Assistance project where the funding there has been obligated. The environmental permitting with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection is complete, and we anticipate starting construction within the next 2 weeks. We did have our meeting with our contractor yesterday, and they're starting to lock in that date, so we'll message that out to the public accordingly. Separate from the capital project, but another initiative that we're working on in the walkovers is evaluating where we need those tread mats for safety and traction, and we'll be replacing that at 16th Avenue, as well as evaluating other locations that need some maintenance there. The next project is our facility building repairs. So this was mostly tied to storm damage and recovery. Our estimated completion timeframe here for all of the buildings is by summer of 2026. So at our previous commission meeting, we approved a change order for the Warren Webster, the Don Vista, and the Rec Center. So since then, we've locked in our schedules for those. The Warren Webster is scheduled to be completed in March, the Don Vista in April, and then the Recreation and Aquatic Center in May. With the Recreation Center, we're also working with our contractor to consider some flood barrier mitigation at some of our openings, so we'll be bringing that back to commission for your consideration. And then our public services building, that one's lagging behind the others because we're coordinating the storm damage improvements also with prior planned CIP improvements. With the public services building, we anticipate starting that back in March and then completing by the end of July. Our facility elevators rehabilitation project, again, this one falls in line with the recovery and storm damage. The Don Vista, the work on that elevator is complete. We're still pending the community center, our fire station 23, as well as our public services. We did have a long lead time for some of the equipment and materials for those replacements. That material has been secured by our contractor, so we're hoping to get underway with those shortly. Our contractor was on site last week doing some measurements, so we hope to have a schedule soon that we can communicate there. For our facility roof replacements, a bulk of these projects are completed. The one that's still hanging out there is our public services building. Right now, our engineer and the contractor are going back and forth on the roof truss material submittals. So once that's approved, we'll get those delivered and then start on that project. We are utilizing the same engineer and architect that designed the public services roof raising project that was done prior to the storm. So we're utilizing them as we join up our storm repairs with the planned CIP improvements for raising that roof. Next is the Gulf Boulevard Utility Undergrounding Project. This one is tied to community prosperity as the strategic initiative. Currently, we are underway with Phase 1. That's from 55th Avenue to 75th Avenue. The city's portion of that construction, which was installing the underground conduit, that part is complete. Where we're at in the project right now is the franchise utilities, Spectrum. They need to remove their equipment off of Duke's old poles. Once that old equipment is removed, then Duke can come behind, remove their old poles, and then the new system will be completely online. The plan for that timing with the franchise utility removing their equipment and then Duke removing their pole was initially planned for the beginning of 2026. There has been some delay in that. The latest we've been told is spring 2026, but as we get a more concrete time frame, we will, from Spectrum and Duke, we'll communicate that. One thing that I'd like to note is Phase 2, which is the portion from 35th Avenue to 55th Avenue, is currently in design review for permitting with the Florida Department of Transportation. They have some, they've objected to our current design that we've submitted, where we have some of the underground conduit due to constraints with utilities that are outside of the roadway. We were locating some of that conduit underneath the roadway pavement. And that's something that DOT has pushed back on. So we have submitted a formal request to the state that they reevaluate that determination in hopes that we can keep the permitting of that project move forward so we can move that towards construction. It's important to note that the tourist development tax money is tied to this project and needs to be spent and reimbursed for this project. So we'd like to get that permit in hand from DOT so we can continue in the future with Phase 2. Next is our Pump Station 1 rehabilitation project. This one is tied to reliable infrastructure. So we did have some storm damage, but again, this was a CIP project based on the end of useful life and the infrastructure needs that we were going to do a major rehabilitation here. We did hold a public informational meeting on the 21st of January where citizens could come in and ask questions of our staff and get some information on anticipated construction impacts. The Phase 1 portion of this project was completed in November of 25. That included some early utility work, some force main installation, Duke's installation, as well as some other electrical preparation, and then material delivery from the site. Now we are currently in Phase 2, and that'll continue through July of 2026, and this is the bulk of the construction on this project. This is where we'll demolish the existing well, remove the pumps. The odor control system has just recently been demolished as of a couple weeks ago. We do have some mitigation measures installed there to help control the odor while we're in this Phase 2. But we do anticipate that the lift station will be running on a bypass and will not have that permanent odor control for that duration into July. From that period, at July, all the new equipment will be installed other than the new generator. As we know, that generator was a long lead item and is anticipated to be delivered in September or October. So our contractor would complete a bulk of their work in July, and then they would return once that generator is delivered, complete that installation, as well as some of the landscape buffering that will be buffering that equipment from the neighboring properties. We do anticipate a future change order for Phase 2 improvements. The Phase 2 improvements include the landscape buffering and some of the items that weren't brought forth in the original May contract, but are tied to the conditional use permit for this project and was planned for and budgeted with our fiscal year 26 CIP. Our shuffleboard building. This one is about ready to be demolished. Our contractor has stated they can do this the second or third week in February, so we're just working with them to lock down a date. That contract has been awarded to Paul. We have recently completed our asbestos survey that was done by North Star, and then Roland completed the utility disconnects. So right now we just need to lock in that date for Paul so they can go out there and we communicate that to the public. We did hold a public feedback meeting on the 15th of January, just to get some feedback and ideas from the community to see what they would want for a structure to be in its place here moving forward. So we got a lot of great feedback and appreciate the community showing up for that meeting. Our next steps moving forward would be to advertise a solicitation for the design, permitting, construction for the replacement structure based on the feedback that we received at that public meeting. Next, I'd like to get into our wastewater collection system improvements. So this is the bulk of the projects that will be addressing our underground gravity system and be prioritized for reducing our inflow and infiltration. So we have issued 2 different purchase orders to our utility contractor, Roland. $250,000 went to pipe point repairs and another $250,000 for manhole rehabilitations. And then we've also ordered new manhole ring and cover replacements for those structures that needed replacements. And with those, we're putting in shield pans that go inside the structure to help rain that from getting into the structures, which should help with our I&I. We do anticipate a new RFP coming out soon that will take the commission for approval once a vendor is recommended for that. And that will be for our wastewater pipe lining. As I mentioned, the POs that we currently have issued right now for the repairs are to Roland. We do, as you can see here on the pictures that we have here, this bottom one is a brick manhole structure. This is located on Paso Girl Way down in 4th Avenue. Through our inspection and cleaning program, we've identified this as a high priority for manhole replacement. So that structure has already been ordered. So once that is delivered, we'll be installing that there on Paso Girl Way. This was an area that we've identified, as well as the city of St. Petersburg, as a hot spot for our chloride levels for the inflow and infiltration. The structure of this manhole doesn't actually have a bottom, so we notice as high tides rise, you start to see water bubbling up at the bottom of that structure. So that's definitely a priority to replace. The other image on this screen is a pipe on Isle Drive on Vina Del Mar. This was one, during the inspection, we couldn't make it all the way through the pipe just because it was so clogged with tuberculation. So we're hoping that we can clean this pipe and get it back to its functional use, but replacement may be needed. So our first attempt will be to specialty clean that pipe, see what the condition is, get the camera through the rest of the inspection, and then determine if we need to replace that or not. In addition to these 2 locations, we have identified 5 other high priority needs for point repairs. So we're coordinating with Roland to get that work scheduled so we can continue to implement this project. And then our wastewater system cleaning and inspection project. So in total, as of publishing this agenda, we were about 12% complete. Our contractor has begun work in the Paso Girl area, the Vina Del Mar area, as well as Don Cesar and Bella Vista. In total, today they've cleaned about 65,000 linear feet of pipe. About 62,000 of that is mainline, and then the rest of it is the private laterals. They've been working at this for about 50 days now, so they are making pretty good progress, and we're continually working with our contractor on how we can report and track the metrics so we can better communicate the status on where we are at. We are working with our contractor to utilize a sewer AI platform. This has been really good in helping us provide, more real-time data and tracking into what the cleaning is looking like. The traditional method for evaluating the inspection video is to manually, watch the video, and each time a defect comes up, whether that's a crack or a hole or even, seeing a cockroach in there, you stop the video, you log in and code what that defect was, and then that's how your report's created. Utilizing the Sewer AI platform, it relieves a lot of that manual watching where we are still doing the manual review in tandem with the Sewer AI, so we can kind of test out and see how this performs. But from what we're seeing, this performs just as good, if not better, than that manual review, and is a lot quicker and also a lot cheaper. So we're hoping this will be a long-term savings in a program that we can implement with the city long-term. And ultimately, as I mentioned, the goal is just to improve our ability to track and report the progress on this, as well as having long-term asset management and CIP planning. And these next few slides, this is just a simple Gantt chart format example of our overall monthly schedule for all of the 53 projects that we're tracking, organized by the project status. And you'll notice that this is consistent with the phases that we outlined recently in our strategic planning process. And this schedule covers through the end of our fiscal year 26, which is September 2026. This schedule is maintained throughout the year by the city's project manager, along with the subject manager expert support. And we do plan on publishing this on that public dashboard that I mentioned, just for improved communication and accountability. And staff will continue to refine this schedule as we receive project schedules from our consultants and continue to issue more POs. We'll get this more locked in. A copy of this example was provided with your agenda backup, and at the end of this presentation, I'll be open to answer any questions on either the format of this schedule or any specific projects that you'd like additional info on. And if I'm not able to help, I'll make sure we get in touch with our project management team so we can follow up. Next, I would like to share the status on some of our current discretionary grant funding. So again, this isn't our FEMA funding. This isn't appropriations or earmarks. This is just the competitive discretionary grant programs that the city applies for. So currently, we're managing about $5.2 million in active grants. It's important to note here the Pump Station 1 reconstruction project for $2 million. We have received that funding, which is part of the budget for that Pump Station 1 project. And now we're in the phase of tracking the return on investment, which that'll be a 10-year process to track that ROI. Our vulnerability assessment project there, that $64,000, we have received acceptance and closeout from FDEP, so we're hoping to receive the reimbursement on that project soon. And then the other projects listed on this sheet are currently pending project completion before we can submit for the reimbursements. Next, I'd like to share on some of the submitted grant applications that our city is tracking. Currently, we have about $13.8 million in total requested grants that we've sent out recently. What you can see on this screen here is mainly tied to the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program through the Florida Division of Emergency Management. So a lot of these are tied to storm damage, Hurricanes Helene and Milton. Each of these projects are on our local mitigation strategy that's approved by Pinellas County. And then this slide is just a continuation of those submitted grant applications that the city has worked on. I would note the grant listed here at the bottom, the Don Cesar Resiliency. We applied for a DEP through Resilient Florida. Unfortunately, we were not awarded the grant this year for that project, but we will continue moving forward as we get further along with the designs and on that project. I am happy to announce that we have been awarded $335,000 from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection through the Resilient Florida program for a shoreline master plan and a vulnerability assessment update. The goal with this project is we have several different tasks that we outlined in that grants assessment, but a main point is our vulnerability assessment, getting that up to the latest state statutes so we make sure we're in compliance to receive funding. And then also developing a shoreline master plan that evaluates the condition of all of our private shorelines around the city. We did do a public shoreline assessment back in 2021, so this helps fill in that gap and will help guide resiliency projects moving forward with our capital improvement plan. And then the other 10 grants are still pending review. And then this slide here just shows at a high level some of the future and anticipated grants that we're tracking and plan to apply for as they come available. This isn't an all-exhaustive list. As we continue to receive different grant opportunities, we're continually evaluating and adding to this list and seeing which is the best fit for the projects in our plan. Next, I'd like to give an overview on currently where we're at with the FEMA public assistance projects, specifically with Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. So as you can see here, for Helene, we have 74 projects, and for Milton, we have 10 or 12 projects. When we note here total cost, that is the dollar amount that FEMA has estimated for approval after insurance deductions and as the projects go through their review process and they do their own cost estimating. The amount obligated, that is the amount that has been awarded for reimbursement and has worked its way through all of the steps. And then the pending is what's still under review. A majority of those pending projects are in the environmental and historical preservation review with FEMA. Next, I'd like to highlight our fiscal year 26 appropriation request. So from the state, you'll see we have the Fire Station 22, our Paso Grill Way wastewater and I&I, and then Boca Ciega Drive reconstruction. Our strategy here, based on recommendations from our state lobbyist, was to target projects that were in the $1 to $3 million range. They advised to finish out our Fire Station 22, since those had been previous requests in the past. They recommended a targeted area for wastewater improvements. So based on the data that we had on hand, we knew that we had some priorities down in that Paso Grill area. So that's why we targeted that area. And then also, they recommended a CIP need that also demonstrated some economic benefit. So with the Boca Ciega Drive reconstruction, we tried to fit that window with that project. Currently, as our previous presentation, we did not have any federal requests, but we will work with Becker to work on some earmarks and get some projects into the pipeline there. So I thank you for the opportunity tonight to give an update here. You know, really our big goal is to be more communicative and really share what the status of these projects are and getting feedback from our community. We do have a lot of great community members who are actively working with us on various different CIP projects, and it is really great to have that kind of input and buy-in from our community. So we ask, you know, if you're interested in any of our CIP projects, please reach out and see how you can get more involved. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson?
Regarding the Gulf Boulevard project, the undergrounding,
Yes.
with that budget of 1.4 million, if we were able to allocate that, or was that a grant? Was that a grant that was given, a part of a grant?
The 1.4, I believe, is all general fund.
So it's general fund.
I believe so.
So we would, as a general fund item, we could use that if we had decided that that wasn't a priority and there were other areas that were more of a priority, such as our wastewater, such as our stormwater, we could allocate that funds that we have towards those, correct?
Yes, I believe if that is general fund money, and I will confirm that, but yes, through like a budget amendment process, that could be feasible.
Okay. Just because I question how much of a priority that is over the sewer system and the stormwater system.
Understood.
And then you said the project tracker dashboard, that would go live, you're thinking around next quarter?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. That's awesome. I mean, that's a great program for us to have. I think that lends a lot of transparency and answers a lot of questions for residents. Nice to see that. Thank you.
Commissioner Reznicki, I think you're going to have to resort like in school and just raise your hand so we can see you.
I'll try to wave. Sorry. First, thank you for letting me be online too and communicating. So let me know if you don't hear me well. But to Camden Mills, first I wanna thank you for this presentation. I know we kind of, or I know I brought this up the priority work session about having a tool that showed transparency. So I feel like, oh my gosh, this is fast. But I think we were in sync. But more that you and I were in sync, I think that the city manager and directors of the city are listening to what the residents are asking for, which is to have greater transparency to what is going on in the city. And providing this public dashboard tracker, and I'm not sure if we've bought something yet or it's in the works in IT, but it's something that is crucial because, like we mentioned at the priority work session, we're not always all here, right? We could have changing staff or commission, And to be able to provide the story of what's going on in the city is important, as well as it being real time. You know, you went over 10 key projects of the city, and if this was on that dashboard, that means the commission, the mayor, any staff, any resident could go to this dashboard and see what's going on in real time. Why things are delayed, how much it's costing, if there's changes in an order, if there's a contingency, or kind of like what Commissioner Robinson just mentioned, of what the cost would be. And this Boca Ciega is on a hold. Well, what does on hold mean? Does it mean we have to use it? You know, is it something that can be used in the future, or can it be changed? So, you know, it keeps the story moving, but it also shows the great work that you all are doing. Because a lot of times people don't understand that there are things going on. That, you know, we're having issues with the sewer. Why aren't we doing anything? People don't realize that your department is doing something right now. So again, kudos for this. A question on the Gantt chart, Camden, is that something that's going to be integrated into this dashboard as well? Because even like the example of the Boca Ciega, because it said you have it in a color on the Gantt as hold. Would those colors be explained, or is that those Gantt charts going to be integrated into this dashboard system?
Yes, our plan is to integrate a Gantt chart, simple Gantt chart format similar to this into that public dashboard.
That would be wonderful. So again, thank you for the great presentation.
Commissioner Maldonado.
Yeah, I would just add, first of all, thank you for the information. Several questions on there that I had earlier were addressed today, and that's wonderful. And as the two previous commissioners stated, not only the transparency, but also the accountability of the interactive dashboard is going to be critical. The city manager and I just recently discovered that projects do fall between the cracks. You know, prior to this commission, there was a couple things going on in Vina Del Mar that we had to just go back and do a little bit of research, and it's going to happen. This is going to help eliminate and reduce those things. So thank you for making that a priority. So what was the street that's impacted on Vina Del Mar?
Paso Grill Way.
You talked about Paso Grill Way and Vina Del Mar.
Isle Drive.
Isle Drive, okay,
Yes,
thank you.
Sorry.
Missed that part. And then also just a question with the landscape installation here on the FDOT highway landscaping. Are we performing that, or is FDOT performing that work?
We would be performing that. So we do have a grant with FDOT where they would reimburse us for that work up to an amount of, I believe, $184,000. So right now with that project, we have retained a landscape architect through our CCNA consultant library, and they've prepared design plans. We've submitted those to FDOT for review, and we're waiting on feedback from DOT before we hire a contractor to do that installation, but that work is planned for this fiscal year.
So that's essentially labor and material that they're covering?
Yep.
But we're doing the labor?
No, we'll most likely hire a contractor for the labor for this one.
Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Camden. I have a quick question. In the very beginning, on the page that listed out the overview of the budgeted figures, I think you made a comment that you said that the FEMA reimbursements weren't included in those numbers. And so then in later slides, when we were talking about the facility repairs and that sort of thing, that we potentially are going to be getting some FEMA or have gotten some FEMA reimbursement for, is that on top? Is that paying for things that were on top of the budgeted numbers, or no? So the budgeted numbers are the cost of the things that we're trying to do, and any FEMA reimbursements or any grants that we get that have not yet been accounted for, those will make our total amount of money that we have to budget in future years less, correct?
Correct. They would help replenish.
Okay.
So we're funding the money up front.
Yeah.
And then as we do complete the projects, get the reimbursements come online, it would replenish those balances.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Commissioner Robinson.
What were the if you know, the 5 other areas for point repairs?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay. And then we talked about I&I, and you mentioned there was some residential that was repaired or looking to get repaired. Is that correct?
Not currently, no.
Okay.
I think I was referring to some of the laterals that we've inspected so far.
Right, that have issues?
Not yet. Majority of the issues we've seen so far have been in mainline gravity pipes.
Okay, great. And I guess I just want to mention, I don't know if maybe we know from Brandon, you would know, in our ordinances, do we require for new builds to do replacement on their laterals? No, we don't? Okay. Thank you. Because I know I mentioned previously that might be something that would help us in our I&I situation, especially now that we're getting more new builds than we've gotten before, especially in residential. Just want to put that out there again. Thank you.
Thank you, Camden. I think it gives you great credit, having been on the job for just a little over a year. I think this is just about the most detailed presentation we've ever received. I mean, I'm not talking since I've been in office, but I'm talking in the history of the city. And we're approaching 70 years next year. So I think that gives great credit to your hiring, city manager. Yeah, you can clap for that, because it's, too many times just being in government, right? It's the assumption is you've got a bunch of politicians that here at the end of the day we're just residents doing what's supposed to be a part-time community service here, and money's being spent. 100 million comes in, 100 million goes out. Where does it go? Nobody knows. What's the status of projects? We've been working on this project for 3 years. Where is it going? Is anyone doing anything with it? And so, as many of the other commissioners have said, and I'll echo that, this is about the most transparent Public Works Department and city staff that we've had ever. And so I can tell you, one, as a resident and as a taxpayer in the city, I certainly appreciate, I know many of our residents appreciate, just to be able to see exactly what's going on, where's the money going, where's the money coming from. Just to kind of give everybody else a little bit of background, before Camden had his handy-dandy chart a couple of slides back where he had all the different projects and what month it's coming out, it's not like we didn't have that. It was just on a whiteboard in somebody's office, just sitting there. And if I wanted to see it, if the city manager wanted to see it, they would have to go into that dilapidated building that you all saw as one of the projects where the roof is being replaced this year. And so now the way we have it structured, it's much more transparent, for one. There's also, as some commissioners mentioned, there's a level of accountability, because you can see exactly where in the process each project is. Is it on budget? Is it over budget? Is it on time? Is it overtime? And so as a resident and as mayor, I certainly appreciate having those tools available now, so that when you all have questions, I can say, hey, let's go to the website, let's take a look at it. Let's go to the project page, let's find out exactly what's going on. So I thank you, both of you, for the work that you've put in the last year to bring this to us and to the residents. So thank you very much. Our next presentation is on Town Center 2.
All right, good evening, Brandon Berry, planner. This presentation's unchanged from the packet, so I'll skim through. This is a follow-up to our meeting back in early November, I believe it was, on direction for potential modest modifications to the TC2 Coquina West. That's a 3-block area on the west side of downtown. The east side, the equivalent zoning, is now accounted for completely by the Quarry Landings project. We haven't seen the consolidation on the west side that we did see on the east side with the Quarry Landings project. And we engaged the community back in October, spoke to the City Commission on next steps back in November, and tonight's a proposal presentation for modifications that allow largely for standalone multifamily and temporary lodging under certain limitations. Looking forward, and I'll explain this more in detail in a few moments, we're really looking at moving this forward through the middle part of this year, hopefully have a proposal to bring back for adoption in middle 2026. So our goals with this was to have a narrow focus, allow limited development and redevelopment of multifamily and lodging uses. There are live local act considerations with the increasing of density within our city. It's not a limitation that we have at the county level or at the state level, but it's certainly something that we need to be considerate of as we make these changes. We did not look at increasing density within the district in this proposal. We want to avoid significantly disincentivizing property consolidation for mixed use and preventing disruption of existing permissions that could be adverse to Senate Bill 180. The focus of this project has been largely adding additional permissions, additional options, without taking anything away. Our focus has been on preserving density, intensity, scale, and mass of the area. The area is 1 to 2 stories, accounting for the floodplain requirements that are currently applicable on new development. We would look at a proposal that would limit redevelopment of the single lots in the area to a maximum of 3 stories, and as I mentioned before, no increase in allowable density. We also want something that's efficient to implement. What's being proposed tonight that we'll work through with the community and the planning board is conceptualized to undergo expedited state and county review. This is a current use mix. It's kind of a unique layout for the city. We don't really have any areas that look like this outside of the TC2 West. We see some of it on Blind Pass Road with the commercial and then the residential to the west and east, as well as in the center of Corey, we do have some residential adjacent to commercial, which is in red, yellow being the residential. But seeing this mix where you have the commercial next to residential, next to office, isn't something that we see in high frequency elsewhere in the city, especially outside of Paso Grill. This is something that when we went to the community meeting back in October, the community did want to keep. They want to preserve this mix over on the west side of downtown. So looking at potential use amendments, we are proposing to look at allowing for standalone multifamily residential uses. That would be multifamily only, similar to what we have in our resort facilities medium district. It used to be the standard for most of the properties on the west side, as well as going down Gulf Boulevard and what's now our large resort and boutique districts. This would allow for the townhouse-style multifamily condo projects. We do have one on the west end of 76th Avenue, a Jan Hideaway. It would not allow for standalone, individually owned townhouse uses. As mentioned before, we'd be looking at a maximum of 3 stories, 2 stories over parking, a density of 18 units per acre by right. That would be for those smaller single property multifamily uses, and I'll talk a bit about the make whole provisions for that density in a few minutes. Looking at the floor area, and I'll show a chart or a map in just a moment. Most of the properties in the area have living unit sizes of between 400 and 600 square feet. We'd be looking at about an 800 square foot cap for those standalone multifamily uses, or existing living square footage plus 20%. They work out to be about the same for the average unit in that area. We would still implement the zoning requirements, looking for on-site parking and landscaping buffers. And with this being in the downtown, we would look at those design criteria, cupolas, gables, and so on, as well as the implementation of green building standards upon redevelopment. So looking at what is typically included in living square footage without getting too far into technical details, living square footage is usually the habitable space in a building. It would be the bedroom, the kitchen. It would also include bathrooms, as are typically considered non-habitable space. It would not include stairs plus minimum landings. It would also not include that ground floor parking, storage, and access, and any exterior feature that is not walled, like an exterior balcony. So looking at the area, looking at average living square footage per unit, you can see there's a lot of variation. Some of the newer developments, the larger developments, are well into the 1,000 square foot range, but most of the properties, especially those multifamily properties, have a square footage of under 800 square feet. So setting that 800 square foot cap for living square footage upon redevelopment or existing plus 20% would be beneficial for most of the properties in the area. There is a mean average of 622 square feet per living unit in this district. Looking at the standalone lodging, we do have 2 current lodging projects that have operated, at least prior to the storm, as lodging. We do have a use that previously operated as lodging, I believe in recent years has been operated as long-term rentals. We have a similar concept in the Upland Beach Village neighborhood just south of here, where effectively the city allows for existing lodging developments to redevelop. This would allow for standalone redevelopment, for example, the Bella Serena Inn. It would not allow for new lodging developments except mixed with commercial and office at the ground floor, so allow for those multifamily vertical mixes that are currently promoted by the Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Code. There would be similar zoning and design requirements, similar floor area limitations, unit size plus 20% to allow for those livability updates. And then looking at the mixed-use development, those Corey Landing size projects, not that we have the acreage on the west side to really allow for that without vacation of roadways, but there are many more parcels to accommodate and assemble on the west side than there were for the Corey Landings project. I believe there were 8 parcels for the Corey Landings project. The 3 blocks on the west side have between 12 and 15, so it's more difficult to assemble those property and get up to that 1.8 acres that we currently require for mixed-use development. This proposal would reduce likely to about an acre the threshold for that mixed-use development, but it would also lower that height down to 50 feet above base flood elevation. This is just an idea. It's something we would work through with our planning board, with the commission on first reading, but this would still incentivize at a lower development requirement the consolidation of property to allow for that mixed use, either a lodging or a residential above a commercial and office ground floor, but it would reduce that height to account for the fact that the developer is not consolidating the entire block. And again, this would be an additional permission. This would not take away the full block consolidation permission that is currently in the Code and Comprehensive Plan. So there's a few challenges I wanted to cover with you briefly, especially for those single lots, those 53.5 to 50 by 100 foot lots that we have in the district. Parking is a challenge, especially for redevelopment on those buildings that face Corey Avenue. Currently, we do have those build to requirements, and I'll give a schematic in a second to show what the challenge with this might be. We are proposing with the multifamily developments that we allow for a limited amount of front yard parking when the property does not face Corey Avenue. So when they're along 75th, 76th through 73rd, they would be allowed that front yard parking up to 3 spaces. So the limit, the minimum number of units that would constitute multifamily above that parking would need to be on the site, either under the building or in the side or rear of the lot. Looking at density, just to pare this down, as I mentioned previously, we would look at a cap of likely 18 units per acre. That would preserve that 24 unit per acre incentive to promote that multifamily mixed use consolidation. There is a lot of variation. I'll skip to this map so I could show it. There is quite a bit of variation throughout the district in units per acre. Many of the properties have upper 20s down to the lower 40s. We do have some properties that get as high as over 50 units per acre. There's really no threshold. There's no ability to set a by right density that would make all of these properties whole and able to redevelop, if that's even viable on the property size that they have. 18 units was proposed as a incentive to keep that 24 units per acre in the mixed use redevelopment. But one of the benefits that came out of the Corey Landings project that could benefit the west side of downtown is that of those 150 units that were allocated back in 2022, 125 of those units went back into the pool. Less than 1/3 of those units that have been added back into the pool wouldn't be needed to provide full parity on the west side in terms of redevelopment of the density that exists today. So those units that have been reallocated through the approval of that project are now available if we would like to see redevelopment on the west side. It would still be an ordinance allocation. It would come forward to the commission for approval prior to redevelopment, but that is an option to provide a make whole option for those property owners over on the west side of downtown who want to redevelop with multifamily. We also have the expected challenge of noise. As I mentioned before, at the community meeting, we did hear positive feedback from the community, from property owners in the neighborhood who were interested in preserving that horizontal mix, but as properties are sold as multifamily and lodging are redeveloped adjacent to commercial uses, that is a consideration we need to take into account. So I just wanted to give a few example schematics of the development that you could be seeing over on the west end of downtown if this were an option that were to be ultimately approved. This would be an example of a lot on 76th Avenue, 3-unit multifamily, 2,400 square feet building. That would be parking access on the ground floor, and then 1 living level above. 3 units would be allowed 3 front yard parking spaces. They would still have the buffer requirements, the green space that would be required by the code. Because this is not on Corey Avenue, they don't have that build to requirement that the properties along Corey do. This would be an example on Corey Avenue. They have that 10-foot build-to line. You would likely have more of a townhouse-style development just due to the limitation on height, the requirement for that building to be moved close to the property. You would likely see the parking under the building. And this just shows one of the challenges with parking on lots of that size. It is something we'll have to work through with the planning board, potentially get some consultant help on. A compact car would likely be able to pull out on a driveway on this lot. A larger truck or SUV would have a little bit more of a challenge. So in terms of general comments, as I mentioned before, we're attempting to only generate modest and viable make-whole options for residential and lodging property owners. We want them to be able to build back. We don't want to completely change the vision for the district or really modify those upper bounds that we currently have on height, density, setbacks, lot coverage, and so on. The Florida law, even looking past Senate Bill 180, Burt J. Harris Act, makes it very hard to take back beneficial development rights once they're given, if they can be taken advantage of. If someone has made an investment-backed an investment in their property and taking advantage of those rights, it's difficult to take them back. So we felt that it was better to start strict and logically relax regulations as development takes shape when the potential end results are nebulous. These modifications are intended only as first steps in what might be a future community redevelopment district proposal or larger, more visionary land use reconsiderations. Those are much more substantial, community-led visioning sessions that would be above the scope of what we're looking at here. We will definitely be engaging the community as we work through the planning board, as we work through next steps, but this is not predicated on that long-term visioning that we might look at with the community redevelopment district. This concept has not been rigorously tested for economic parity. We don't want to create a situation in which residential or commercial crowds out the other. We do want there to be balance as something that was promoted by the community at that community forum. So that's something we'll be looking at moving forward. And just as we have protection for our residential areas, we want to make sure that we protect our commercial and mixed use areas as well. So in terms of next steps, we're really just looking for a thumbs up to move forward on this, or any input on items we might have missed or misconstrued. If we are directed to proceed, we'll work with our planning board on refining the concepts, work up with the community, likely in a forum format, as well as a work session with the planning board, bring back a first draft for action prior to review by Fort Pinellas with the county, and Florida Commerce, which reviews our comprehensive plans with the state. We have met with Fort Pinellas in early December. We expect the draft concept as currently proposed would proceed under an expedited staff level review. There's no increase to density or intensity. We're not introducing discouraged uses under the county plan. And this does not qualify for a small scale amendment under the state review. It's the second fastest review. It's not a longer, much more arduous coordinated review. So this is something we think that we could probably work through with both the county and the state in about 90 days. And we would like to bring back those refined amendments to you in mid-2026. That's all I have. I'm happy to receive feedback. And as I mentioned, we're really just looking for a thumbs up or down to move forward with the planning board and the community on refining these concepts. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Commissioner Marriott.
Thanks, Brandon. First, I want to say thank you so much for you and the rest of the planning staff on doing just such a really thorough, careful, thoughtful job of this. I know that the property owners in the area really appreciate it, and I think it's clear that the zoning that was there to incentivize a certain kind of development, it wasn't happening. So, so I'm glad we're working to come up with some options to make that, that section of of downtown in that section of St. Pete Beach get some investment. And so I really appreciate that. I think this is a really fantastic plan. I don't see anything that I would significantly change on it. I'm sure that the property owners in that area are going to have some feedback, but I think the process going forward allows for lots of feedback. So I think it's really a great path forward, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
How many of those are single-family homes?
I believe we have three single-family homes. The 8.1s on the map are single-family.
Are those, though, not the ones that don't have it on, aren't those single-family homes? I mean, go to the current use mix diagram. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. The one over by the vacant lot, behind the vacant lot. Over here, the one in front of the condos on 76. The two along 75th that are residential/rentals. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 between 74th and 73rd. Are those not?
They're not single family.
They're not single. So there's only 2 single-family homes in the whole area.
3.
I believe we have 3. And they're residential, but they are duplex and multifamily.
Okay.
The rest of them.
I asked because it says it's prohibited. So, I just want to be clear on that. The duplexes, anything existing, would therefore be prohibited.
And they are currently prohibited. That was something we were beginning to discuss with a member of the community, whether we could relax those standards as well, not necessarily from a redevelopment standpoint, but just in terms of an addition or improvement standpoint. That's certainly something we'll look at. But in terms of, sorry.
Yeah, because we're offering that in the lodging side, but then we're not offering it on the single-family side. Because you said on lodging, they can rebuild but not redevelop, correct?
They would be eligible to if they were seeking to redevelop with the lodging use, they could redevelop with their existing unit count, a slight increase in size of the units in the development, but they would always have the option to rebuild as a commercial use or a residential use if they chose to do so.
For the lodging. Okay, I just want to make sure what we're getting rid of. And then on the vacant ones, the ones that are listed as vacant, the 1, 2, 3, 4 properties, do we know if those were residential, if those are, they're white, they're listed in white?
The one that's furthest to the bottom left of the map on 73rd, so the furthest west white box on 73rd, that was previously single family.
Okay.
And is now vacant, and the rest of them were not single family. The rest of them were multifamily or commercial.
And the one the demo one?
That was multifamily.
Multifamily as well. Okay, I just wanted a better understanding of what those were. Okay, and then on the density pool, just to understand, just for clarity, under residential density pool, SPA 1, you have TC2, Coquina West redevelopment, 113 units remaining. But you also have TC2, Coquina West at 245.
So that.
Can you explain the difference to me,
Yeah,
please?
so the residential density pool, that would be 37 units allocated out of what we currently have as available in the pool to allow for redevelopment of the residential uses. If they were all seeking to redevelop as residential, that's what we would be looking at in terms of density pool allocation. The 16, that is for existing lodging uses in the district. If they were to do the same, redevelop with the same unit count, that's how many units the city would have to allocate out of the pools to make them whole at the current unit count. So that would be 37 out of the residential density pool, 16 out of the lodging pool.
Okay, great, thank you. And then, sorry, I had one more question. On the turning radius, Did we use auto turns on that? I see a vehicle graphics, or did we?
That was a National Transportation Institute, I believe, guide that I scaled off. We'll have more technical guides to work through with the planning board. That was just an example. It's just something we need to be considerate of. So,
Is that? I'm assuming that's true to scale then.
yes, it was true
Okay.
to scale.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Commissioner Maldonado.
Yeah, great work. I like that, a lot of this came out of the TC2 forum, that, it was a dialogue, not just a driven discussion where input was sought. In looking ahead and looking at the challenges, obviously it's impossible to encapsulate or capture everything. But as Commissioner Marriott said, it's a great pivot point to start and then make adjustments as necessary. So thank you.
Brandon, can you go to the previous slide, please? Okay. So this is in a scenario where you're doing townhouses, correct? So this would be parking on the first floor, and then you'd have second and third floor on top of that. Okay. Is the 800 square feet per living floor, or 800 square feet total for both floors?
That would be total per unit, so that would be both floors together. The proposal, and this is something we'll work through with the planning board on, would be to exclude the minimum circulation space when they do have 2 living levels. That would be excluded, but any other living space would be included between the 2 floors.
Okay. I think this is going to be challenging. What is do we know how many feet we have? So we've got 70 feet by 27 feet.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So in this scenario, this is essentially all that would fit on this lot?
That was what I was at least able to come up with that would allow for, potentially the building could be expanded more to the right side, so they could potentially pick up another 10 feet or so on the right side there and meet the setback standards. But with the green space lot coverage requirements and so on, this was what I could fit into the lot. It is going to be a challenge on Corey Avenue. The good thing about that is the incentive's still there, but we do see most of our residential development not on Corey Avenue. That's where the commercial tends to be. So if there were to be a multifamily or a mixed-use project on Corey, it might be multiple lots, and that really frees up a lot of the space on the lot for parking and so on. So
I guess I have a challenge with the 800 square feet maximum living space, because even 1,200 square feet, 1,500 square feet, I'm not sure it's a viable product. I'm not sure that, but when you look at areas that areas that are similar to, so if you look at like the, Soho Hyde Park district in South Tampa, right? So they have similar sized lots, and you see this particular thing very common, right, where they do 3 units, 4 units, townhouses, very similar, garage on the bottom, 2 living floors on top. I think the vast majority of those are in the 2,000 square foot range. And so I'm not sure that, having 400 square feet, I mean, you all live in houses, right? It's like 400 square feet is like, yeah, that's not very big. And so when you try to squeeze in 2 bedrooms, I mean, you can't even squeeze 2 bedrooms on the 3rd floor, for example. Mm-hmm. So these are going to be primarily 1 bedrooms, and then again, who's going to want to buy 800 square foot? I mean, it's going to be nice, it's going to be new, it's great. I think this is going to be like that 800 square feet. I'm just asking that you take a deeper look at the 800 square feet.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure if there's an option to break it out and say, look, for townhouses, maybe we can do something else. I want to make sure we keep the density where it is, so I appreciate the fact that we're not looking at increasing density at all. But we also, if we're going to offer an incentive, it ought to truly be an incentive, not something that somebody looks at and says, well, thanks for the offer, but nobody wants this. So maybe just having so I'm not sure if we can even break it out and just say, look, for townhouses, you're allowed to do a little bit extra living room square footage. I'm not sure if that's an option or not. We just want to make sure that if we offer something, it's actually commercially viable, that somebody might actually take us up on the offer.
Understood.
Commissioner Marriott?
Yeah, I appreciate your comments about the size of the size of the units. I think that's a point well taken. And this is, I think, where more public comment and public input as we go forward is going to be really important. You know, one of the things that came up in some prior discussions about this, and it was even in the slide, you know, we want to be careful about having residential encroach too much on the commercial. And one of the things that this does, particularly on Corey Avenue, where you're limiting the unit size, is that it more incentivizes something that would be more of an apartment type of development than a condo or a townhouse type of development that somebody would own. And in an area where we're trying to have a little bit of a buffer between single-family residential a couple blocks away and then commercial development where you have restaurants and bars and that sort of thing going on, you know, having that other kind of multifamily residential that's more apartments and rentals, I think is a really good way of buffering that a bit. And then also keeping some of the apartment rental and apartment stock that we have in St. Pete Beach, so that, you know, some people who work out here can potentially, you know, live out here as well without having to, you know, buy a townhome or own a condo. So so I think that is something we probably want to, you know, need to look at carefully, but I think that that's something that we need to continue to get a lot of public input about as well.
Commissioner Robinson?
I'm just wondering, why did we not allow the duplex? Because the 800 square feet is really tiny. I mean, I've got a row house up in Pittsburgh that's 950, so, or excuse me, 900, so it's 450 a floor, and it's small. I mean, the bedrooms are tiny, and it's one bathroom, and your living room and your kitchen are basically right next to, you know, they're right there. So, because you have to put stairs in there too.
Sure.
To get up to the other floor, and that takes up a large amount.
Understood. And we can definitely, we can look at average townhouse size for new development and all. We can look at those as we work forward with the planning board. I think that the intent was really to keep the scale of the area. So I think we'd probably still be looking at the 3 stories, but as I showed in the previous example, you could get a whole nother story on top of that. That would be 4,800 square feet based on the prior example. In terms of the living square footage, it was really just generated out of the average for the existing area. I understand that's largely below what would be permitted or desirable today. So we'll work through that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor. I do have a public comment on this presentation, if you want to take it.
Oh,
she said she's good.
As the very first of the public comments next.
She said she's good. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so next we move on to general audience comments. Do we have any?
Kathy Garshaw.
If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Kathy Garshaw, 3607 Casablanca Avenue. So good evening, and thanks for giving me an opportunity to talk to you tonight. I just had a couple of items. I think, you know, we're all learning different things as we've been going along, in particular the last 18 months. One item just came up, and I have already spoken a bit with some of the staff. So I just wanted to make you all aware, because it might be something as a commission that you want to take some action on. One, it's that we don't have a, so I'll actually show a quick picture. So this just is an image, and I had taken a picture of this because, as maybe we know, there's a lot of demolition happening. And apparently we don't currently have a city code that requires repairs for damages like this from resulting construction work. Maybe it's not, you know, it's not like a negligent thing, it's just accidents happen. But in terms of supporting maybe a more rapid process for the way that we can recoup the kind of costs that we're going to incur for things like that, I think that would be something that would be beneficial to incorporate in our codes. So I wanted to share that. The other one is just about also codes. I think a lot of us are doing a lot of improvements, and one of the things that I don't think is in our code, and it did come up, I think, with the previous commissioner when Joe was on, about the idea of seawalls. And for those, when a homeowner has a seawall that is in disrepair, that if they're going to do a substantial improvement, just like I know with my home, you have to bring everything up to a particular land development code. It would seem wise to me to really be looking at that as a commission and evaluating how do we incorporate that. Because if I have to put in 5 trees and then remove all my rock and put all this irrigation in and put all the, everything else in, that's tens and tens of thousands of dollars. I would think that the same thing would apply if I were a homeowner on waterfront to say, please help us stabilize our shoreline. So I'd really love to see this commission have a serious conversation about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Josh Wilhelm?
If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name's Josh Wilhelm. I live at 8051 Coquina Way. And I'm actually here to talk about the end of Coquina Way, if anybody knows that end of it. It's the northernmost end, I believe. There's a circle there, there's a cul-de-sac, but for some reason they built this tree structure in the cul-de-sac. And sorry, that picture's not great. So anyways, this is my house here. This is where everybody drives over my landscaping on a daily basis. This is about 10 feet wide. Trucks can't fit through there. Every single day they're stuck in there. There's trailers jammed up in there, and they're driving across my yard hitting these trees. For what reason this big circle is blocking the cul-de-sac, I don't know. Maybe it worked back in the day, but garbage trucks has to back all the way down the road to get to us. I mean, deliveries are a mess, and we have 2 houses that are about to be, actually 3 houses. 2 are, I think, demolished and rebuilt, and the other one's going up. And it's going to be a disaster down there. So what we're trying to do, and I finally got the guys to put a curb in. You can see it's brand new there after 3 years of asking, with a mud pit and people driving through what the city considers my front yard, which shouldn't be my front yard, but that's what they call it because of the rules here. So anyways, that was the first thing. I don't know how we get something done about it, but it's not functional. So either they need to remove the cul-de-sac or make it the street much bigger down there. It's a major problem. I've talked to all of my neighbors. They all said the exact same thing. They totally agree with it. That's my first point. I'll make the rest real quick. This is another. Somebody dropped a piece of junk table down there. It's an eyesore. How people get away with this, I have no idea. I think it should be removed. Somebody shouldn't just get to throw their old furniture down there. It's right next to my house. It's an eyesore, and there's no reason for it. And lastly, and sorry, I just have to get this one out of my way. I don't know if anybody's talked about the beach beacon before. They throw their garbage in my yard. I have 4 properties on St. Pete Beach. I'm tired of picking it up. I called in, complained about it, and said, why can people drive around our neighborhoods and throw garbage that we don't want on our streets? I was told that our city attorney said that it could be a blockage of freedom of speech, which I can't understand how that could be. That would mean anybody can throw any garbage anytime they want on somebody's street and say that's freedom of speech. So I don't know how we get something done about it. It's a waste of paper. It's a total waste, and it's very frustrating for me. I tried to call them, tried to unsubscribe, I tried to do everything I could. So I sent a letter to this lady who I guess they're trying to get Christmas cards sent to or something like that, and said, cease and desist or I'll take legal action. But I think as a city, we should stop people from littering. I find them all over the streets all the time as well.
Josh, if you don't mind, City Manager, would you mind giving him a card? And if you can send an email with the first 2 items and those addresses,
Sure.
so we can take a look at it.
Great, sounds good.
Especially that park bench, if we didn't put it there, it doesn't belong there, and if it's a hazard.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Steve Sewell?
Good evening. If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Steve Sewell, 8050 Coquina Way. I live right across the street from Mr. Wilhelm. I'm not going to take long. Everything he said, I agree with. I'm a neighbor. I'm very thankful that the garbage collectors come down the street backwards to get to us. Especially when all the vehicles are on the road because of construction, it's tight for them to get through. And I just shake my head sometimes and congratulate them for a great job that they do. But getting rid of that, we call it the big park. It's 3/4 the size of the cul-de-sac itself. Needs to go. And then we get deliveries and everything else down there. It's time. So, thanks. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
That's all I have for general.
Next, we move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
City Clerk, if you'll please do a roll call.
Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott,
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Reznicki, Mayor Petrella.
Sorry.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinances. Final reading of ordinance 2026-01.
Honored to read the first ordinance of the year. This is an ordinance of the City of St. Pete Beach, amending the St. Pete Beach Land Development Code, Sections 2.1, 3.10, 6.13, 6.14, 6.22, 7.4, 28.1, and 28.5, to increase front yard stair encroachments for specified residences, allowed retention of non-conforming balcony footprints, and specified non-conforming residential accessory structures following substantial improvement to the primary residence, clarify restrictions on non-conforming uses, and amend restrictions on elevated and substantially improved non-conforming structures, modify residential storage building standards, modify residential equipment setback standards, provide a front yard setback line, alternative for residential cul-de-sacs, and curved street lots, and amend definitions and content of the Land Development Code to provide clarity and consistency with Chapter 98 of the Code of Ordinances and the Florida Building Code, providing for severability, codification, and scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date. Ordinance 2026.01.
Thank you.
So as I mentioned at the first reading of this ordinance, this is largely a consolidation of what came forward to you late last year, addressing all the items in the title of the ordinance, as well as addressing some of the state's requirements and recommendations for better alignment of our land development code with Chapter 98 of the Code of Ordinances, as well as the Florida Building Code. It's been over 20 years since we've really done a pass through our land development code, so some of the terms and references were out of date. We did take this item to the planning board yesterday at their regular meeting. They did recommend it at a vote of 5-0 to the city commission for approval. However, they did have 2 recommendations and a condition for approval. The first was to revise the transparency requirement for the base of open stairs to be consistent throughout the document. It's 70%. That had just been a staff error. It was 80% in one area of the document. I made it 70% consistently throughout the document. They also asked that the 1-year redevelopment requirement for nonconforming density residences and nonconforming accessory structures that are not substantially damaged following a catastrophic event to be based upon the date of permit application rather than permit issuance. If a permit's applied for, if it's deemed complete, if it's kept valid during that period of time, they would need to perform that action within a year instead of get a permit. If it takes 3-4 months to work through permitting, they wanted that would not pose a challenge to the property owner in that regard. They did also, all 5 members did condition their recommendation to the city commission on the removal of the permission for a 7-foot front yard encroachment for open stairs associated with new residential construction. That is the amendment in this ordinance to Land Development Code Section 6.22C2. They did support leaving in the permission for a 7-foot front yard encroachment for open stairs that are associated with home elevation or conversion with vertical addition, so effectively turning the ground floor into parking, storage, and access, and rebuilding the residence above the floodplain. We've seen both of those in pretty equal measure. They did recommend keeping that standard in Division 3, but they recommended removing it from Division 6. So with that being said, I did not make that change in this ordinance. I did want to present it to the city commission. If you're in agreement with the recommendation from the planning board, I can certainly make that change. It would just be striking that permission out of Land Development Code Section 6.22. The preceding bulleted changes on the list that were left at your seats, those have been changed within this document. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Brandon. Commissioner Robinson.
So one is just a typo. the first one.
Correct,
The
yes.
second one is just a change from the date of permit application to the 1 year would start, clock would start there.
The 1 year,
versus-
correct. It was previously date of permit issuance, so the 1 year would stop when the permit is applied for and deemed complete instead of when they actually get the permit. So they wouldn't need to necessarily apply months in advance and then run into an issue where they don't get the permit issued in time. That was the change that we made.
Because you're talking about when the clock stops, not when it starts, right?
Correct. They have 1 year to get that permit following the catastrophic damage. That is assuming that we're not under a state of emergency. We're still under a state of emergency for Helene and Milton. So the clock's still running until that state of emergency ends. But if there's a house fire in a non-state of emergency period, if the property owner submits for permitting 10.5 months after the house fire, they would not be put in a position where they have to get their permit within a month and a half or they lose that right. They would have the clock would stop at the 10.5 month point.
So it's making it easier on people, not harder.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the last one, so we're drawing a line between, the new residential construction versus an addition?
So for those property owners who are either elevating their homes or abandoning the existing ground floor and
Right.
building above, their recommendation was that they remain eligible for the extended stair encroachment into the front yard of 7 feet. They recommended against preserving that. What is drafted in section 6.22 of the ordinance on page 15 and 16. They recommended striking that and not extending that permission to those who build new.
I'm sorry, those that
build new, so those that completely redevelop the property, they would not be eligible for that additional staircase encroachment.
Okay. Thank you.
I, for one, am not in favor of striking that language.
I'm not either.
I think the best way to characterize those comments from the planning board is as uncharitable. In my opinion, really disappointing. Because we're not dealing with just random people coming in from outside, tearing down our old homes and building new stuff. We're talking about residents who went through, one of the worst disasters, well, the worst disaster we've ever seen in this town. And then and many of them have decided that they do want to reinvest in this community. And now instead of, if you want to raise your house, great. You can have that setback for the stairs, but if you tear it down and if you spend even more money to make your house even more resilient, to reinvest in the community, now we're going to punish you. Doesn't seem to make any sense. So I'm in favor of leaving it as is and giving the same benefits to whether if you want to raise your home, if you want to add on top, or if you want to raise it completely off, and then build brand new. I think you should have the same benefit. I think we should incentivize people that want to invest in this community in the single-family homes, give them the most opportunity to build something as resilient as possible. So with that, I make a motion. Sorry, do we have any audience comments?
We do. Walter Soa.
Yes. Good evening, sir. If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Walter Sowa, S-O-W-A. I live at 108 20th Avenue at St. Pete Beach. And my comments concern section 6.14, paragraph D, encroachment of certain specified ancillary residential equipment into required yards, specifically air conditioning condensers. This section allows elevation of permitted existing equipment that encroaches into a required yard setback. In August 2024, Helene floodwater inundated my primary residence. Both the National Flood Insurance Program and Lloyd's of London adjusters examined the situation and determined the property to be a total loss. Because the main building was built 99 years ago over a crawl space on a simple perimeter block foundation, it was decided to proceed with demolition and restorative reconstruction. Elevating the existing structures or building a living level on top of them at base flood level did not provide a reasonably resilient, climate change capable structure. When the first reading of this ordinance was completed, I submitted a building permit application for the replacement construction of my house and placed the AC condenser in the east side sidewall 5-foot setback area where they were permitted to be before the storm. City Planning and Zoning denied the application because the permission to elevate in place applies only to residences that are elevated or have their ground floor abandoned and a new living level constructed above. It does not apply to all new construction as currently written. With reference to the floodplain management section of the city's code, the issue is about floodplain management in an environment undergoing climate change, not new construction. It is about replacement construction of a storm-damaged residence that requires mandatory compliance with current floodplain regulations and building the most weather-resistant structure possible, which in my situation places the AC condensers in the east side setback, which is the least vulnerable side of the building when it comes to extreme weather events. I am requesting the commission to provide clarification to the city planning and zoning about this section and let me put my condensers where I want them, where they were when we started. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Would you, City Manager, would you mind giving him a card? Sir?
Yes.
Would you mind taking a card from the City Manager, sending her an email with the address and the details so we can take a look at it tomorrow?
So Adam's in the back.
Adam will have.
My business card. He's gonna get you my business card. You can write me. I will contact you personally.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, sir. City Clerk, do we have any other audience comments?
We do not.
Okay, Commissioner Marriott.
Yeah, I know you were about to make a motion, but I just wanted to say that I also agree that the encroachment for the stairs into the front yard setback should be allowed for new construction as well. And my reasoning for it is really just that I think a 7-foot encroachment of stairs into the front setback is just not that big a deal and does not change the fabric of what we're trying to do in the city, and it gives people some flexibility for what they're rebuilding, and I think that's a really good thing.
Thank you. All right, is there a motion?
Do we need to, so I think Brandon, you said you did not change the part about the setbacks, correct? So I can make a motion to adopt ordinance 2026-01 as written.
Correct. If you accept the first two bulleted changes, I did not make the change in the paragraph at the end, which is
Okay.
so, yes.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2026-01.
I second.
City Clerk?
Commissioner Robinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Reznicki?
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott?
Yes.
Mayor Petrilla?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have action items. The first one is 6A, Resolution 2026-02.
So Retirement Healthcare Funding Plan, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of St. Pete Beach, Florida, adopting the Retirement Healthcare Funding Plan through the National Public Pension Fund Association, NPPFA, authorizing execution of related documents and agreements and providing for an effective date.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Again, Adam Poyer, Assistant City Manager. The resolution you have before you tonight is to, as he mentioned, to adopt the Retirement Healthcare Funding Plan. This was actually a component of the collective bargaining agreement that was ratified with the International Association of Firefighters this past fiscal year. So one of those requirements was to adopt this plan. The goal, obviously, is to provide retirement health care benefits to eligible city employees and to support their long-term retirement security while allowing the city to attract and retain qualified personnel is the ultimate goal of it. From a funding perspective, there is a PTO buyback option if certain criteria are met, but predominantly this plan is going to be funded by the employees themselves through payroll deductions based on a decided percentage by the employees. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, commissioners. Are there any audience comments?
No, there are not.
Thank you, Adam. Commissioners, is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2026-02.
A second.
City Clerk, if you'll please do a roll call.
Commissioner Resnicki?
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson?
Yes.
Mayor Petrilla?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have action item 6B, Resolution 2026-01.
A resolution of the City of St. Pete Beach vacating a 3-foot platted easement at the rear of lots 5 and 6 of Block C of Sunset Park replat, recorded in Plat Book 18, page 6 of Pinellas County Public Records, located within the property boundaries of 103 24th Avenue, and providing for construction, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
So this is an easement vacation request. This is something that's within the city's charter. It does need to move forward to the city commission. I did want to point out that it does require a 4-5 vote to approve this request should the commission wish to do so. Mike and Gina Pezza, owners of the property at 103 24th Avenue, are requesting to vacate an easement shown in red. The bolded rectangle box on the screen is their property. The subject easement is shown as the red sliver. It's 3 feet wide. It extends at the rear of what was platted as lots 5 and 6. They were sold to the property in an unknown year. It was likely in the prior to the late 1970s, and they are seeking to vacate that platted easement that runs along the rear of the 2 lots. This is being undertaken to allow for construction of a new residence that would be located within the easements as they exist today. And a little hard to make out on the screen. I believe it was with the packet, but you can see the layout of the home that is proposed, as well as the pool. The home would be located within those easements, and therefore the easements must be vacated prior to construction. Letters of no conflict have been issued by all active utilities in St. Pete Beach. Those are Duke Energy, Pinellas County Utilities, Charter and Frontier Communications, as well as Tico Peoples Gas. The city does not have any basis to retain the easement based on our local code requirements. We do have drainage requirements. The easement is unspecified on the plat. It was not specified as we typically have in newer plats, usually with drainage or utility. But drainage will be provided through swales during development. The neighbor's sewer line connects into the subject property sewer line, which runs to a manhole at the rear of the property. This is a known issue. It's not directly related to the vacation, but final action to discontinue the line requires resolution of this issue. We have spoken with our city attorney about this at length. It was discussed yesterday at the recommending planning board hearing for this request as well, which they did recommend pending vacation of this known issue. I did pass out a revised resolution. It was revised today. I'll point out sections 5 and 8 of the resolution. Do set a delayed effective date, resolution 2026-01. If you were to accept this resolution as drafted, would not become effective until an executed agreement to relocate or maintain sewer service for 101 24th Avenue is recorded by the property records of Pinellas County. Section 8, the effective date of the resolution shall be the date of the execution and recording of that agreement. So that is the amended resolution that's before you tonight, should you wish to take action. I'm happy to answer questions. We also have the property owner present for any questions to them.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
Do I need to make it ex parte?
This is probably legislative, so you don't have to, but if you'd like to, you can.
Okay. For the record, so I did meet with the property owner, and I did go out and tour the location. I also met with city staff several months ago regarding the sewer line, not related to the vacancy, but actually when it was discussed as a pool project. So I just wanted to get that out there. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't approve this with the conditions that staff has added. I did watch the planning board. I think that they did a good job about talking why it was appropriate to go ahead and approve this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Woznicki?
I could hardly hear, Mayor.
Go ahead.
For some reason, your mic, I can hardly hear you, so I apologize. Brendan, just a question. I know that we did not know what the intent of the easement was original. When you look at the original plat, you could see easements on the other lots or blocks, throughout Sunset Park. Are the other easements in the other lots, because you can see like how they were continuous, or like there was some idea of planning there, what those other easements are used for, or are they all just not used as an easement right now?
I didn't look at other blocks. We, of course, have our lateral that runs west to east from the manhole, and it's actually located at the rear of the property as it's currently assembled. So our lateral does run within that easement. I believe, and the owner could speak to this, I believe previously there was one utility active in this easement that sought to be vacated. I believe it was Duke Energy, but they would be able to confirm that.
So there's a current lateral right now on the easement?
Not in the easement that is being discussed for vacation. The west-east easement located at the rear of the property that runs to Sunset Way.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any audience comments?
Oh, we do. Amy Letelier.
Good evening. If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name's Amy Letler. My address is 12055 Gandy Boulevard North, Unit 254, St. Petersburg, Florida 33702. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. I represent David and Melinda Gallagher, the owners of the adjacent property at 101 24th Avenue, and we oppose the vacation of the easement. As stated, the Gallagher sewer line is connected to the Pez's sewer line, has been for over 60 years, and there is a prescriptive easement. Last week, the Pez's cut the sewer line without the appropriate approval by the city, and prior to that, City Attorney Vose sent a legal opinion. I'm reading my notes because I don't want to misstate. She stated, vacating the easement while an active sewer dispute is ongoing could expose the city to claims that its action facilitated interference with utility service or private property rights, particularly if the vacation is perceived as enabling redevelopment that disrupts sewer access. She further stated, at a minimum, the city should defer action on the vacation request until the sewer service issues are fully resolved, and should make clear that any vacation does not authorize removal of or interference with existing sewer connections. My client provided a solution to the sewer connection, and the Pez's turned it down. After they disrupted sewer service, the city instructed them to reconnect my client's sewer line and informed the Pez's that no permits would be issued until the issue is resolved. I sent the suggested solution to the Pez's council, and I still have not heard from him. City Attorney Vose, while not opining on a private property dispute, did opine that any disruption of sewer service necessitated by the Pez's redevelopment should be undertaken at the Pez's expense and must be reviewed and approved by the city from an engineering and public health standpoint. We simply
Background info. My husband Mike and I used to own the property at 27th and Sunset. We did not have room for a pool on that property. When the property on 24th became available, we purchased the property with the intent of someday putting in a pool. The lot is wide enough to accommodate a nice sized pool. We sold our property on 27th, bought the property on 24th. We love Pass a Grill and have invested a lot of money and time in the property that we own. And first, I have a question. Is it legal to actually tie in to the neighbor's sanitary line that comes out of their house? And I'm asking purely because I really don't know. We don't know. And I just want to know, is that legal?
That would be for a court to decide. Because it involves easements and property rights, and You purchased a property that already had a sewer line tied into your sewer line. So you purchased either with knowledge or without knowledge, but it was already there.
Okay, but the
So
title search,
it likely had a permit way back.
the title search came back clear.
Your title insurance might have an exclusion or it might not. But that, again, that would be a matter between the private parties to either settle by agreement or, if you can't agree, to have a circuit court make a determination.
Okay, so when you say the vacation would be granted with resolution, we're requesting that the neighbor's sewer line does not run across our property, as the likelihood for backup in the future falls on our liability, and we don't feel that that's fair. In good faith, we have been working to resolve this issue since March 5th of 2024. Prior to the storm, we had put new hurricane windows and doors on our house, and we're installing a pool and a garage on the driveway area. That was all approved, everything was ready to go. We have had little to no communication and every excuse under the sun. The representatives for the family were vacationing. They weren't hearing back from the city. And when we would check with the city would say, yes, we have answered their questions. They were waiting for a quote, the homeowner's elderly, and then eventually hired an attorney. We also have vacationed. We also have checked with the city. We're also elderly, and we also hired an attorney because we needed to document that we were in contact with the homeowners next door, asking them to move their line off of our property. We were told from the city, a high-level person within the city, that they were granted access to Pass a Girl Way and did not need to come into our yard. When their contractor presented a proposal to cross our yard again, which will minimize the size of our pool, I called Brandon and asked Brandon if that was something we absolutely had to do. And he said, no, you do not have to let a person cross your property to access the sanitary line. And they should access the sanitary line on their own, not actually tied into our property. We're worried that house is going to sell. Maybe renters are going to come in. They are elderly and they are very nice people. And we apologize that this is not something they probably ever thought they would have to do in their lifetime, but it's here. We did not cut their line. The demolition company that we signed a contract with and then canceled because a gentleman would like to move our property onto Corey Avenue to use it as a retail space. We canceled the contract with the demo company. They went out, forged ahead, and cut the line because they're refusing to acknowledge that we have canceled the contract and are asking that we pay for the complete contract even though they did no work, except cut the neighbor's line. Mrs. Gallagher called another neighbor on our block, if I can just finish, just one more second. She called another neighbor to let us know that her line was cut. By the time that neighbor called us, we might have lost some communication or time in that translation. We worked to get that line reconnected. We called the demo company, no response. I think the city called the demo company. Brandon, I think you did. No response. We personally hired a plumber, a third-party plumber, to reconnect the line and paid for that at our expense. We feel like allowing the Gallaghers to run across our property again is going to minimize, it's causing us undue hardship. We're paying rent, we're paying storage, we've moved out of the home. It will limit the size of the pool that we can put on property that we own. They don't own it. So we're asking that the resolution be made, that they connect to Pass a Girl Way, and it's not for us to fund. It wasn't us that put that line on our property, they did. So the funding should come from the Gallaghers to Pass a Girl Way.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, would you like to chime in on?
Right. So we have a dispute between private property owners about the shared sewer line. It's a civil matter. It has to be resolved in circuit court. It's more than small claims because it involves a declaratory judgment as to who owns the pipe and who has the right to remove the pipe, and how that would be handled is all in circuit court, not here. So we put a condition on this that they resolve it in circuit court or they have an agreement before this becomes effective.
So
So the arguments she made today are good arguments perhaps, but they should be made in circuit court. She has a lawyer, Kyle Bass, who's not here today. The other property owner has an attorney. Both those attorneys know how to file declaratory judgment and injunctive relief. And so simply if they can't reach an agreement, it sounds like they're trying to reach an agreement before they file. But if they can't reach an agreement, they'll have to file in court and have it heard by the circuit court. That's where these disputes are resolved.
Sure, I'm not interested in getting in the middle of a neighborly dispute.
They could also try to do alternative dispute resolution like mediation, which
Sure.
might be ordered by the court anyway prior to trial.
I'm just trying to understand what action we're taking here. Is, if we take action, it sounds like one person is asking us to delay action until they figure their stuff out. But if one of the parties decides to just drag it out for 2 years, I mean, we can't sit here for 2 years and not make a decision on it. At the same time, if we make a decision on it and they still have a dispute going on, is there anything that comes back on the city as far as liability or anything else if we vacate this?
Well, certainly if we vacate this and issue the demolition permit to cut the line and the sewer either spills into the ground or the sewer line is capped and backs up into the property at 301 or 101, then causes damage to that property, they may try to sue the city. So we don't want to knowingly issue approvals or permits that could possibly cause sewer spills and backups. It's in the public health, safety, welfare to ensure that sanitary sewer service is provided. If there's any spills, they have to be reported to DEP immediately. We were already under a DEP consent order for sewer spills. We don't want to have these happen and have the city have any role in a sewer spill like this. So we want to make sure it doesn't happen.
Commissioner Maldonado?
Yeah, thank you, Attorney Brooks. But I do want to just kind of go back to the planning board and the amendments, section 5 and 8, which they discussed. Amy Lutler was there representing Spoke, as well as Mr. Pez. So I think that what the issue is today, and they are tied, but is if we approve this resolution with the amendments, it has the clause in there that has to be resolved between the private parties, not on the city. So we're not approving any litigation or any action towards either of the residents involved. Rather, we're approving this with condition. Is that my understanding?
Yes.
So that it would not have to come back to the commission. Once they find an agreement, this would then kick in.
And until they find an agreement.
Nothing happens until then. So
If they reach agreement this week, they don't have to come back here next month and they can move on faster.
Commissioner Robinson?
I'll just state that I'm a little nervous on signing anything that potentially puts us at risk. I think not signing it would speed up the process of them negotiating on trying to get a resolution on it. What is the timeline to come back here before the commission? We do 2 meetings a month, so every 2 weeks. How much of a delay is there? A month, 2 weeks? I mean, it's not that long of a delay for them to work it out. I'm in favor of not going forward with this and I'm in favor of delaying.
There'll be a motion to continue.
Yes.
Sir, you're more than welcome to fill out the comment card, bring it to the, of which property? Okay, sir, if you want to speak, please come to the microphone, right? It's got to be on the record. We cannot hear you from there. If you please state your name and address for the record.
I live at 103 24th Avenue. I understand where you guys are at with this, but this was supposed to be heard 2 weeks ago, and we've got a lot going on at the house right now. Okay, we've got the relocation of the house, that we're working. We're trying to get the permit for that. My wife talked about the demo permit that we had canceled. The attorney makes us look bad with cutting the pipe, but as Brandon can state, we were very concerned about it. We jumped on that when the city couldn't get AAA to come back out. We went out there on our own and took care of it. Got the plumber out there that same day, okay? And we're there the next morning. So we're doing everything we can. We don't want to do any harm to our neighbors. But the problem right now is to come to a resolution we're willing to work with them. They don't want to have any financial responsibilities at all with this. So it's like, okay, if we decided to move the pipe on our property, put the pipe in and reconnect them, that's all on us? That's ridiculous. Everything's been, they're the ones that illegally hooked up to our pipe. It's on our property, and this vacate has nothing to do with them at all. As Commissioner Maldonado mentioned, there's a resolution with it. Okay, let's at least get this done. Okay, we are going to go back. I talked to my attorney today. Okay, we had a plumber go out there and already give us a quote on redoing it with hooking them up, and then we're going to present this to the Gallaghers, and that'll be. We don't want to go to court. That's the last thing we want to do, and we want to get this corrected as quick as possible. They can drag it on as long as they want, though. They could just say, no, we're not going to do anything, and keep dragging it on. Where does that put us? When we're renting a house in downtown St. Petersburg and paying $4,000 a month to do that for nothing. So I just want you, and this started a long time ago, guys. This was not something that happened overnight. It's over 2 years. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so to Commissioner Robinson, in terms of continuing this or changing the date, I will tell you that when I was briefed on this 7 months ago, the city had proposed some possible alternative plans to the Gallaghers to include relocating it to Pass-a-Grill Way and even the temporary use of a bladder. They cannot use septic tanks and things like that. So I don't see how continuing this is going to help them mediate or get to a point where they're going to find a conclusion. I do feel comfortable with Attorney Brooks' recommendation and the planning board's addition of these two sections. So I would like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I make the motion to approve Resolution 2026-01 as amended.
I'll second.
City Clerk, if you'll please do a roll call.
Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott,
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson,
No.
Commissioner Reznicki,
No.
Mayor Petrilla.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-2.
Thank you. Next, we have action item 6C, Resolution 2026-03.
A resolution of the City of St. Pete Beach vacating 2 5-foot platted drainage and utility easements at the common side property lines of lots 1 and 2 of Block 79 of the plat of the North Unit Number 1, recorded in Plat Book 21, page 27 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, located within the property boundaries of 645 78th Avenue, and providing for construction, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Just a brief presentation on this. We haven't seen one of these, I think, in around 15 years. We just happen to have two on the same night. So, Resolution 2026-03, vacation of easements at 645 78th Avenue. Land Ferris owner requests to vacate 2 adjacent 5-foot utility and drainage easements that intersect the property. You can see in the black rectangle here the full property boundaries. These are easements that are blanket easements. They were dedicated on the plat. The property owner is the owner of 2 full lots of North Unit Number 1 plat, Block 79. They own all of lots 1 and 2. They also own some unplatted land that runs to the water. Under the original plat for this neighborhood, there were designated blanket text easements that run along the sides and the rear of all of the platted lots in the neighborhood. So because they own 2 lots right next to one another, it's actually a 10-foot width. It's 2 easements that are adjacent to one another. These were designated as utility and drainage, so the purpose of these are known. There are remaining easements that run along the rear of both lots, as well as on the east side. There is a 5-foot easement. They are not seeking to vacate either of those 2 easements. They're only seeking to vacate the 2 easements that run between the 2 platted lots. Letters of no conflict have been issued by Duke Energy, Pinellas County Utilities, Frontier, and Charter Communications. We did correspond with, but we did not receive at this point a letter of no conflict from TECO Peoples Gas. I expect that one would be issued based on our correspondence. I'm still working with them on obtaining that, but we did give them the 14 days notice that our code requires. As I mentioned with the prior case, the city does not have any basis to retain the easement. Drainage will be provided through swales during redevelopment. This is a single-family home. They're required to swale the property when they redevelop, as well as have at least 30% of the area left open for percolation of rainwater. So with that, we did meet with the applicant last week at TRC. We asked if there were any known issues outside of the utilities vacating these easements. They did not express any. So we do request a approval of Resolution 2026-03 for 645 78th Avenue. There is a pending development permit on this lot, and this is one of the steps to getting that issued. Happy to take any questions. And I believe the owner's present. Yes, she is.
Thank you, Brandon. Commissioners, questions, comments? Would the owner like to say some words? It's up to you. Floor is yours. Thank you. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2026-03, vacating 2 5-foot drainage and utility easements along the common sideline lot lines of lots 1 and 2, Block 79 of the plat of North Unit Number 1 is recorded in Book 21, page 27 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida. And that's 645 78th Avenue.
Second.
Second.
I think Commissioner Mary, I beat you to it. City Clerk.
Commissioner Robinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Resnicki?
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott?
Yes.
Commissioner Petracco?
Yes.
Motion carries. I do have to say that Mr. Berry just pointed out to me that the previous motion had to pass by a 4 to 5 vote, and we had a 3-2 vote.
Oh.
Okay. Somebody should probably let the homeowner know.
Therefore, it failed.
Therefore, it failed. Yeah.
All right, next we move on to item 6D. To consider special magistrate recommendation relating to mediation. City Clerk, City Attorney, before we move on, do you mind just kind of help us out here, because we had a conditional use hearing on this a few months back. And this does not say that this is still part of that same hearing, and it's been more than 6 months. And is the application void? Do they have to start from the beginning?
Yep, let me explain.
Situation.
Okay?
You don't mind just...
Yep, I'm going to walk us through. So we have some time frames here. We're going to spend about 10, 15 minutes on staff side. Then the applicant will give 20 minutes. They have 2 representatives here. Then we'll take public comment, and then we'll come back to the commission for a motion, a second, and a roll call to approve, deny, or approve with conditions and modifications. So we remember most of the commission was here. Commissioner Maldonado was not here. This was back in May of 2025. There was a variance and a conditional use that came forward. There were 3 applications. They were all denied. That was in May of 2025. In June of 2025, rather than seeking judicial review in court, the applicant filed a Fluidra case, which is a Florida Land Use and Environmental Dispute Resolution Act. What Fluidra does is toll the time that they would have to file to seek judicial review by petition for certiorari, while the parties explored if there were any alternatives, uses that could be made of the property, revisions, conditions, design changes. So that June, within 30 days, the Fluidra was filed. Within another 30 days, the city filed a response to the Fluidra that included all the reasons for the denial. In October, The special magistrate proceeding under Fluidra began. The special magistrate proceeding involves a mediation, a noticed mediation that occurred here at City Hall between staff and the applicants. And that occurred in October. In December 22nd, the special magistrate issued his order, a recommendation. Under the statute, within 45 days after receiving the special magistrate's recommendation, the city can either accept the recommendation, modify the recommendation, or reject the recommendation. So we are here on January 27th, within the 45 days. The statute requires us to consider the recommendation. Again, the statute does not make it a requirement that we adopt it, just that we consider it. With that, I will turn it over to our counsel from the Henderson Franklin firm, who was our lead counsel at the Fluidra mediation, and he can give you a brief overview, and then we'll turn it over to the applicants.
Before he starts,
Yes.
again, just going back to my original, is this a quasi-judicial
This is,
or is this not?
this is legislative because we're talking about settling a case, so it would be legislative.
Just want to make sure that,
Do we need,
Commissioner Robinson has a question.
do we need Commissioner
Yeah,
Resnick?
Mayor, I have a technical
We don't
difficulty
have her
with,
online.
with Commissioner Resnicki, so I'm trying to get her back online.
sure.
If we could break for 1 second. How, did we just lose her?
Yeah. No, we lost
5
lost
minutes
her
ago.
through your conversation,
Okay.
or dissertation. I don't know whose computer's updating, but somebody's is.
Oh, great time to update Zoom, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's an update. It already did went from 4 to 98%, and I don't know what else is going on.
We can,
Ah, there, look at like a positive here.
While we're waiting on that, do we need to go back and make another motion since we realized that that last resolution didn't carry?
No, it just fails.
It just fails.
yep. They can come back in 2 weeks, in 4 weeks. Hopefully they get their situation resolved. We can take a short recess while we resolve our technical difficulties. We will be back at 8:35 sharp, 7 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm Jeff Wright with the Henderson Franklin Law Firm. Ralph covered a lot of the basics of what we're dealing with tonight. Just to recap, it came before you last May.
We're having a waiving request from Commissioner Reznicki. I believe she's pointing at her ear that she can't hear.
Maybe
Do
this.
some testing on the system.
Ryan,
Oh, it's mute. It has a mute button on the St. Pete Beach room. Yep.
can you hear us now?
Oh, try now. Looks like it's off.
Now I can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll try it one more time if I may, Mr. Mayor. I'm Jeff Wright with the Henderson Franklin Law Firm here on behalf of the city. And as Ralph mentioned, this came before you last May, almost 8 months ago exactly. And on May 21st, the commission considered and unanimously denied 3 companion applications for this Windward Pass project. And following the denial, the applicant initiated statutory dispute resolution procedures under FLUEDRA. That's the act that allows you to do that. And the mediation was held on October 1st with the special magistrate Mark Bentley and Mr. Luke LaRoe, the attorney who's representing the applicant. And I wanted to say, just for a second, wanted to thank Mr. Bentley and Mr. LaRoe for their professionalism in trying to work out sincerely a resolution to the issues. There were a lot of moving parts. I also wanted to thank your staff. They were great, not just at the mediation. Mr. Brooks has been great, accessible, but they've been really professional and great to work with since the mediation, getting to tonight. So following the mediation, the special magistrate issued this recommendation that is before you today. And there are some key points. They're on page 4 of the recommendation. I'll just run through them real quick. The proposal would eliminate any request for water sport rentals or third-party service providers, eliminating a portion of their conditional use request, which was to have those third-party vendor services available. Also, elimination of the parking garage, making it just street or ground parking only. They would drop their request for density units from 104 to 100. And they also agreed to relocate the swimming pool, making the need for the variance go away. So no need for a variance anymore. Also, installation of sound governors for the first floor and for the roof to address noise concerns. And, quote, attractive pavers would be included in a promenade surrounding the project. There's no further description provided for that commitment. And no additional public benefits are included in the recommendation. So that's basically it. Under the statute, and Ralph alluded to this, the commission can approve, reject, or modify, basically, and that includes condition, the recommended settlement. And it's a recommendation, no obligation. It's not a directive. You have those 3 options before you tonight. And with that, available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, questions, comments? I do have a question about the last thing you said. You said there are no additional community benefits offered?
That's right. When you look at the recommended settlement that the special magistrate issued, it's very short. It's 4 or 5 pages, and nothing in there. I combed it through a few times to make sure no additional public benefits for the project. And you know, we do have some concerns with the settlement. In a perfect world, we would have made some further changes and continued the process, but that didn't happen. Here we are, and under the statute, the commission does have those 3 options.
When you say that didn't happen, was it because we didn't ask?
Well, and this is in the summary too, so this is not really new information, but we did express concerns because after the mediation, we said, okay, we have a rough idea of an agreement, let's go home and work on it. And during that process, we raised our concerns and we offered to continue the process or not, and they chose not to. And when that happens, the magistrate goes ahead and has an obligation to render a recommendation, and that's what he did. So we didn't have that opportunity to work out those last concerns.
So, in summary, we asked them to have a chat about community benefits, and they declined?
That's accurate. I just want to make sure that I'm not mischaracterizing what they said. We asked them to take a little bit more time to address our concerns, and they said we'd rather have the magistrate go ahead and issue his recommendation rather than incorporate those concerns and continue the process.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, or while he's here, before we move on to the applicant?
I think you had asked a question, and I was about to answer when we lost the Zoom connection. I think your question was something about the 6 months and the 8 months. So the Fluidder process has taken 8 months. So since the denial, 6 months has already gone by, so there's no prohibition anymore in the code on then submitting a new application. So a new application can be submitted at any time.
But this is not a new application, this is just...
Fluidder would be a revision to the original application or a revised application. The special magistrate's recommendation doesn't go further and address how these revisions would be processed. But if you are amenable to these revisions and want to approve this, we could then talk with the applicant's attorneys and representatives about which public hearings this revised application would go through once we received a complete application and drawings and site plan, which we have not yet received.
All right, thank you, sir. If the applicant would like to come forward.
Members of the commission, good evening. My name is Luke Lareau. I'm here representing SunGold LLC. It's my privilege to be here. My address is 2240 Bel Air Road, Clearwater, Florida, Suite 190. And when we originally were retained to go into this matter, we decided that instead of jumping into litigation, as your attorney has stated, it would be good to entertain the ability to try to resolve this through the dispute resolution provided by the Florida statutes, and that's what we did. I worked with Mr. Wright, and I would certainly reiterate my privilege of working with him, and I think I've known Mr. Brooks since he and I were both brunettes, but long time now. Always a privilege to work with these fine gentlemen. But we were fortunate enough to get as our mediator Mark Bentley, who actually wrote the Bar Review article and all the articles explaining this process and how it's a very, very superior process to try to give everybody a full opportunity to explore all of the areas of concern, give everybody a chance to sort of cooperate and approach these issues in good faith, which we did. I'm going to go ahead and go through some of the special magistrate's recommendations. A few of the points I want to make is that we were a little bit uncertain about any basis to go back and try to re-explore this, and I certainly would resist any decision that would be based on the fact that we were less than cooperative. We were cooperative throughout the entire process. There was never any specific concern enumerated to us. When Mr. Bodziak, who's going to follow me and present, give you the look at the plans, when he went to submit the plans that we prepared in reliance on having reached this conclusion and reached this mediation, it's my understanding those plans were rejected. In his report, and I'd go ahead and ask that you receive and file the recommendation, he quotes the requirements and says that under the statutes, quote, the parties shall be represented at the mediation by persons with authority to bind their respective parties to a solution. And then he goes through all of the issues that we explored in that process. I think when you look at Mr. Bodziak's plans, you're going to see that as far as public benefit, we completely revamped this entire project. We abandoned any need for a variance. We eliminated a significant amount of the structure, and I can say that when you see this, you'll see that 50% of the area has basically been opened up for the public benefit. From my perspective, I think that in looking at all of the issues that we presented, the unusual footprint of this property, all the other characteristics, and the extensive effort that we made to basically work through everyone that attended the mediation, and I just want to stress, we didn't restrict anyone, even the people that had reached out that weren't within the contiguous area that need notice. We didn't prevent anyone from attending the mediation. No one came, no one objected. We had no problem with anybody else coming. We were wide open to the whole process. But I think that what we did was come up with the best possible plan that we could come up with. If there was something else that we needed to address or to conciliate on, it was never brought up, and I don't know what it could possibly be. And I think when you see the plans that Mr. Bodziak puts forward, you'll understand exactly what I'm saying, and you'll see that this is an absolute plus for the city of St. Pete Beach. Mr. Bentley concludes by saying, based on the facts, evidence, and testimony I have reviewed and considered, I recommend the City Council approve the petitioner's amended development orders to reflect the mutually agreed upon conditions set forth above and adopt an order approving petitioner's amended development orders, etc. It's certainly our respectful position that we did everything we could possibly do to make this as appealing, as beneficial, and as positive to the city of St. Pete as we possibly could. And I'll go ahead and cede the floor rather than use up any more of my time so that you can see what an excellent job we really did and try to convince you that this is in everyone's best interest, and we ask you to approve and adopt the recommendation by our special magistrate. And thank you for the privilege.
That way or not. Good evening, Jack Boziak. I'm the architect. I want to clarify one thing right away. I did attempt to meet with the city manager and discuss further the settlement agreement, and the plans were handed back to me, and I was told by the city manager with two other of the city representatives there that she would never approve this and we would never see it go through. So I want to clarify there was follow-through on this, which I guess the city attorney was not, city representative was not aware of. However, we made significant attempts to try and meet more or less where we felt the city wanted to see this project go. And I think when you look at this, rendition of it, you'll see that there is a huge space to the left where left of the game room. You can see where the parking garage was removed and that building was moved back. And then we have that large vacant area in the center that is just parking and view straight through. Then on the far right, you'll notice that we still have exceed the code requirement at about 62, 65 feet on that side of open space. Essentially, when you take a look at a plan that shows these yellow areas, which are represented by that rendering that you just saw, it's a significant amount. Almost 50% of the site is open to the water. So I think it was a significant effort at trying to make the attempt to address the concerns that were voiced and make the project more palatable and create a better environment in the direction I think we thought the city wanted to see it go. Let me tell you a little bit about Beth Morian. Beth has been a resident of the beach for over 30 years and purchased this site 22 years ago. Beth's family originally began J-Bill, as you probably know, and she has been a significant philanthropist in the community and the county and throughout the state, having contributed $1 million, you may not remember or recall, to the recreation center construction here at St. Pete Beach. So Beth has been a significant force in the community. The site's approximately 2.67 acres with 670 feet of waterfront. And I think what you can see from this is the significant revisions that we made were not an attempt to take advantage of it, but make better use of the property and afford the public a tremendous amount of open space that created view corridors through the site, which are, as I say, almost 50% of the site, which is unheard of. And when you look at the projects across at the beach, they're maybe at the 10% or 15% margin. So I think we made a significant effort at trying to create a opening, so to speak, and retain preserve some of the area that
was essentially now the open area that you see through to the water. We relocated both of the pools to this side of the road into the center, surrounded by the building, removed the noise factor from the residents that objected across the water. So that created a large opening space, eliminated the parking garage, made significant revisions creating open space to the water, reduced the unit count by from 104 to 100 units. On one portion, what is the southern portion of the building, we reduced the number of floors to 4 floors instead of 5 above parking. And as I say, we relocated both of the pools to move them into the courtyard, away from the water, away from the residential area. So I think we made a tremendous effort to try and shield the residential area and retain the public walkway around the entire property to enable the public to enjoy the waterfront, walk through the areas, and create a much more significantly open project. Let me just think if there's anything else. As I say, the property now has almost 50% retains almost 50% of the open view of the water, which I felt was a major objection when I came before you before, and I tried to make as much of an effort to meet all the, not just the requests that were the result of the mediation, but the general gist of what I think y'all as a commission wanted to see happen. Trying to think if there's anything else that I can cover in the brief time I have here, but I'm open to any questions you may have about it.
Commissioners, questions, comments?
Did you have the original layout with you?
Oh, I knew that was going to happen. I do not, but to give you an idea, I moved the building on the far left a little further into the property and created a little bit larger, a considerably larger open area on the north property line. I eliminated the parking garage in the middle, which allowed me to move that building over. I retained the south setback, which was significant, moved the pools. Oh, wait a minute, here we go. Oops, well, now that really, well, I'll try and explain it from this. That is the studio, the game room. This was the parking garage that was 3 stories essentially high. There was a minor space through the middle. This was the building that you see that extended all the way over, which we've reduced the height on the southern end of it, and we opened up this whole area through the middle and moved this building a little bit to the south. So you can see that I mean, if you recall, it's a significant improvement in the open spaces. I mean, there's not another property in St. Pete Beach that has almost 50% open spaces to the water and to the view. And it takes as much of the public concerns into account, including the access to the waterfront with the walkway and the seating areas. And I think the open view to the water is significant. And look at anything else on the beach, you won't come within, even close to this. And the other factor of moving all of the noise factors away from that were raised about the pool areas and moving those into the enclosed courtyard on the other side of the building away from the residential area.
Commissioner Maldonado.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, to say the least, this is a pretty ambitious commercial project. So this question is for you as well as for Mr. Wright. Have you given consideration for something in lieu of this project? For example, a residential property?
Well, the residential properties would have almost a similar impact on this. Let's face facts, residential, you would have to try and do really high-end, considering the value of the property. And I really think that a residential property in that location is not necessarily, there aren't too many other residential projects in this location of the beach. There's the adjacent ones that are aged, that are old, but it's pretty difficult at the present day values of land to incorporate a relatively low density into residential on this site. We did examine that, but it just didn't make economic sense.
Commissioner Marriott?
Yeah, thank you. And I can see that the design has been pretty significantly modified to take into account a lot of the objections that were brought up before. And you know, I think there are some things to like about it, right? Like preserving those views of the water and having the walkway around the water side of the structures, and you know, I think there's some good things here. I also think that this is a large enough project that I don't think we would be serving the community well to do anything other than encourage you to reapply and start through the process again, where we could have a community meeting with some community input, and you would have a chance to address the community and get people to buy in to the concept, and for us to really be able to thoroughly evaluate the development and make a good decision. You know, I don't know that you know, my biggest concern with the project as it is the same concern that I had with it in the beginning, which is that to give that large of a number of our units from the density pool to one project in this spot is in essence removing them from other parts of St. Pete Beach and from some other projects that could happen. I mean, just earlier tonight we were talking about, you know, some changes in zoning in TC2 and what we're trying to do in some other parts of the city, and so you know, I think it's going to require some careful consideration, for me anyway, about what is the right thing to do with those density units, and what are we, you know, what are we getting in different parts of the city by handing out those density units. And so, although I love many of the changes that you've made here, and clearly you guys have worked really hard at it, and I think there's a lot to like about this project, but I wouldn't feel right just accepting things as is without a bigger discussion around handing out units from the density pool, and having more opportunity to hear more from the community about the project, you know, when it's something that you know, it's kind of brand new, you know, to everybody. And I think that, and I think that, you know, with this new project, it may be that there would be more residents that would think it's a good idea, but we're not going to know that until we have a chance to hear from them and they've had a chance to see it.
I understand what you're saying, but I think the consideration you have to make also, though, is, yes, it's a significant number of units out of the density pool. This is a significant site at 670 feet of waterfront. There's nothing even within half of this remaining in the city of St. Pete Beach. So I'm not being disagreeable with you, but I think you have to consider, yes, it's a significant request as to the number of units, but it's a significant property. Putting 50 units on here, visualize if you chop that in half, then 70% of the property is not built on. I think that I would ask you to consider that there is not another piece of property vacant in this size in St. Pete, and we're trying to take a careful look at trying to adjust to and address some of the concerns that we heard with the commission. You know, I've been working here since 1967, which gives away my age, but on the other side, I've watched a lot of transition on all these beaches, and I think this is a reasonable approach when it approaches 50% of open space, and I don't think the 100 units is an unreasonable request when you consider that we dropped some of the ancillary things, and the site, the size of the site it needs to try and make some use of some portion of it. And with all the areas we left open, we are trying to limit it to the hotel. And I think that please consider that this is a significant site that needs a significant use to it. You know, it's, I'm trying to kind of get this thing to a peaceful conclusion also and see this thing, you know.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the comments.
I mean, you know, I do appreciate what your point of view is.
Commissioner Reznicki?
Yes, thank you. You could hear me okay, right? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Thank you. This is a significant property, and with that, it is due for significant community input. The impact is great, and the request is great, and the changes are grand, right? They're much different from what I can see what you're showing, but it doesn't show me any detail, and for that it requires to go back for that conditional review. If you have this if you already have this new plan or this new design, or it should be able to go through the process, right? Let the community voice or see it. I'm seeing this right now. So with that, you know, I concur with the commissioners who've spoken. I think this does require to go back and submit the application. I mean, it's 6 months past, and it sounds like you're ready to submit as it is. Thank you.
Commissioner Robinson?
I would concur with both Commissioner Reznicki and Commissioner Marriott about it going back. So you know, I received at least 30 letters or emails that are not in support. And I received 2 that were in support of the project. So that says a lot about how the community feels about it, and hence saying that, you know, to go back to the community. The other concern is just that there's not a lot giving back to the community. The community benefit, to say a project by itself is a benefit, doesn't really prove that it's a benefit. You can say it, but it doesn't really do it. You know, I think our residents are a little smarter now. Not that they haven't been smart the whole time, but they realize giving away density should come at a cost to the community, giving back to the community. In addition to that, it is called Bayou Residential District. With that being said, it's in the development, some of the policies say it's a transition area between higher intensity commercial uses along Gulf Boulevard and lower density residential neighborhoods to the east. So there is the big concern on that. And it is a significant project, for sure. I appreciate the redo on it, but again, it needs to go back to the community for them to see it and have input to it. And I believe it's a little closer than this picture shows across the bay.
Yeah, well, this graphic, I'm sorry, but
Yeah,
I agree that
like it's a far away, and it's really close.
it is a significant property, but you have to consider it's a significant parcel. There is not another parcel. If you look at this proportionally to what was granted, for example, across the street, and I'm not trying to match that, but I'm saying proportional to what they had to the proportions of this is a significant property, and it's very difficult to say, well, just go do some residential on it and forget about the fact that it's worth $20 million.
Yeah, it's not our job to tell you what to design there or build there. That's your job, and to come to us and you know, to see if the community is for it. I mean, the community here is for reasonable, responsible development, but they do know if they're going to give you density, it comes at a cost.
Well, I would say one other thing, and that is that a lot of the objection has been filling in this property with a building that significantly blocks what everybody's enjoyed for years as a big open space. I have to tell you that when we looked at the residential availabilities to the site, and going to a density pool and doing, you have to do a certain number of sub-market units, and to get enough density to present this, and the buildings have less restrictions on them as far as how they fit the site. So I seem to feel that a lot of the concern was blocking the view of the water, that everybody's gotten used to the big open property. And that's what I think we tried to take into consideration. The residential, though, is not going to be any more forgiving. In fact, it's going to probably be more demanding because of the size of the units and all, that it will take a significant portion of the property and fall back on smaller setbacks, side setbacks.
Understood, but we are looking at people's backyards when we look at that water. Whereas I'm pretty sure the open vistas and views are more desirable for this community on the Gulf side, where we can actually see a sunset. But nevertheless, it's your project to design. I'm just saying that it really needs to have the community input and community buy-in in support of it. And I'm not getting that from any of the emails that I've received.
I agree, but one of the unfortunate parts of being the last person to develop in any area is people get used to the advantage of you having a vacant lot. And I don't think that the owner should be penalized for being one of the last people to develop a large parcel on the beach. I think they should, as a matter of fact, Parapassu be allowed to enjoy the same rights that other properties have, earlier did. Now you're going to have a lot of redevelopment coming up from the damages on the beach. And are you going to treat those the same way and say, you had 90 units, but, we want more view, and the people think that you shouldn't be doing that. So, I understand your argument, but there's an argument to be said for property rights and not being penalized for being the last person who left their property vacant. And now everybody's saying, what a great view. Well, the city could buy it then maybe and say, okay, we're going to leave it as a park. That could be an option. I'm not throwing that out tonight, by the way. But, I think that you have to consider.
Are you entitled to by right?
Pardon me?
How many units are you entitled to by right?
I think it's like 80-ish. My recollection is, if you use the entitlement of some moderate cost housing.
With a straight residential project, they get 15 units per acre, but with a mixed-use residential, like we saw at Quarry Landing with restaurants or shops, you get 18 units per acre times 2.6 acres would be 47 units as of right, without having to come for a bonus density allocation. And then there's whatever's left in the bonus density allocation of 195 is available for showing of public benefits. That's for residential condos.
Yeah, I think we had done it.
If you'll let me just.
Nope, sorry, go ahead.
My questions here. So you're entitled to 40 units by right.
47.
47 units by right. So you asked 2 minutes ago to be afforded the same rights as everybody else, to be able to develop your property based on what you're allowed to. But that's not what you're asking for. What you really are asking for is for 47 units plus another 100 units on top of that. So you're asking for 147 units. Is that correct?
No,
For
not at all.
temporary lodging, they all have to come from density bonus. You're not allowed temporary lodging here unless you get
So we're
density
asking
bonus
for
allocation.
53 additional units.
53, because he's 100.
No,
How many units are you total on this project? 100?
now we're talking about 100 temporary lodging, not residential.
Right.
So let's make clear.
We're not talking.
This was all studied pretty significantly by you all and
You're
everybody
entitled to
involved.
47 by right. You're asking for 100.
Double.
So you're asking for more.
Mayor, I'm sorry. I have to correct you.
Yeah.
They're entitled to 47 residential units by right for condos. If they go to temporary lodging, they get 0 as of right. They all have to come from the density bonus pool allocation. So they'll go from
You're
0
entitled
to 100.
build tomorrow, 47 units, as it stands residential, which this is zoned residential.
Correct.
Okay. So
again, I'm simply
Can I-
asking here. So you're asking for double what you're entitled to by right.
Let me add something else that perhaps Attorney Brooks can confirm. It is more than that if you use moderate cost units, according to the code. I believe it almost approaches 70-something or 80 units. If you do, now, moderate cost units would have to be a certain percentage of the project. I did study that in the code, and it is significantly more.
47 is just market rate unit.
47 is the market rate if we did just rental apartments, no market rate units, below market rate units. But we would have to do that to protect the value of the site. I mean, we're looking.
It wouldn't have to be rental apartments, they could be condominiums.
They could be condos or rentals, yeah. I mean, I think it can go up approaching 80 from my calculations on it. I actually did a site plan on it some time ago, and I did a building of apartments. God, I've worked on this project since Beth has had it in the last 22 years, several times. So don't mislead. I don't want to mislead you that it is not 40. You can take advantage of certain elements that significantly increase it, including moderate cost rents.
So it's 0.
Thank you. City Clerk, are there any audience comments?
Deborah Scheckner.
Thank you, sir. Since there's no more further questions from the commission at this time.
Just as a matter of protocol, I want to make sure that the recommendation of the special magistrate is received and filed as part of this record, and that the plans that Mr. Bodziak tried to present but were rejected are also made part of this record, and we'll leave those with the clerk.
We haven't rejected anything yet, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you don't have any other questions, I'm okay. Thank you very much. I hope you understand. My job is to try to compromise between the city's objectives and the owner's objectives, and at the same time, it's just my feeling is that an owner shouldn't be excessively penalized for all the changes that have occurred in the last 22 years to the code that would have allowed her a lot more, or for having torn down everything that was there. And it's unfortunate that it's waited this long. This site should have been developed 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and it's now kind of a penalty that the codes have changed somewhat, and that the opinion has changed to the community, who seems to have an unusual impact on the owner's use of the land. Thank you very much.
If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Deborah Scheckner, Bocasega Isle Drive in St. Pete Beach. Let's remember that this bayou is pristine. There's a big tree there where all the white birds go, and it's almost covered. It has wildlife, dolphins, everything you can think of. So this bayou is environmentally fragile, if you ask me. I do have a few questions. So if we're going to be allowed to go there, where do we park? Or is it only walking? Music, I'm not sure they have music or not. Car lights, will they always be facing people's homes? And like Commissioner Robinson mentioned, it's much, much less wide than it's showing on the picture. It may be a significant property, but it would make a great park. I put a name and lights over it, and we have a city park. Would be lovely. We also have to take a look at using that much from our density pool for one project. I don't really think is a good idea. And most of the residents, if there's music, they talked about sound mitigation. But if anybody who lives on the water, I can hear people all the way over on Bella Vista, which is quite a long way from my home, especially if the wind's blowing my way. I'm sure they can hear me too. So I think there's noise. Need to know about music, car lights. How do you protect the bayou? That, if anybody has gone by there, it is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I think it's best to let community have input. And again, I'll throw that out there. A park, her name could be big. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any other.
Okay. So, I agree with, seems to be the sentiment from some of the commissioners that this is not a quite fully baked project and probably needs to have some further review, especially with community input. I think, and now we've heard from the applicant on, I've heard from them at least 4 times now before the commission. And as Commissioner Robinson said, I'm not going to tell you what to build, but if I could offer you some guidance, here's what I would do. Because you've taken great steps to improve the project and to listen to community input. And I don't know why that is, but it seems that maybe you heard some things that the community wanted and community was looking for, and maybe ignored some other parts that maybe they weren't convenient, maybe they weren't feasible in your opinion, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, as our Land Development Code and Comprehensive Plan states, a conditional use application is not by right. It is an application. You present your case, you present, for example, conditions, and conditions could be any number of things. And the code spells out exactly what those things could be. And if you look at the last project that was approved not too long ago by this very commission unanimously, it was a similar project on a similar piece of land, and that was all residential. I'm not telling you should build residential. I'm just giving you some background. And just so that you know, they asked for 10 units from the density pool, not 100, not 53, but 10. And for those 10 units, they contributed $5.6 million in community benefits for sewers, roads, infrastructure, community park, boat docks, and a walkway, a huge amount of community benefits. Community benefits for the entire city, not just for a few neighbors that may have a less obstructed view. And while I'm sure those neighbors certainly would appreciate, the decrease in size of what you originally had, moving the water park or the pool to the other side, limiting the parking garage, all of those things are great, and I think all those things are greatly appreciated by the community. But I think if you want that many units from the community pool, you have to come with something to the residents and say, look, if we're giving you double what you're entitled to, here's how we're going to, benefit the community. And again, I would look at previous projects. You can see what the community is asking for. You can see what the community wants, right? They want somebody who, they prefer to have residential, because residential are people that are invested in the community. They live here. They participate in the community, rather than transients who come and they're here for a day or 2 or 3 and then they're gone, right? And so there's a desire by the community to have those types of projects. Now, you're entitled to ask for whatever you would like to put there. I'm simply giving you information based on the last few projects that we've seen and the ones that the community really seems to appreciate. I've been involved in, looking at developments and stuff in the city for the last 5 years. And that last project was the first time I've ever saw one where the community came out in support. We didn't have 30, 40 emails opposing it, but rather saying, here's a great project, right? They didn't ask for much density. They asked for 10% above what they were entitled to. They provided great community benefits, right? And it was a cooperative effort. And so what I would suggest to you is, should this request fail tonight, we don't know how the rest of everyone's going to vote, but if you reapply, I would take those things into consideration. I would have that community meeting and listen to what the neighbors say.
and implement that. It may not be exactly what you want or how you want it, but at the end of the day, the commission does have to take all those things into consideration with the land development code, with the comprehensive plan, and what you're asking for is above and beyond what you're entitled to. So I know you kept repeating that you're not asking for anything, that you shouldn't be penalized because you're late to the party. Well, you are late to the party and you're asking for double what everybody else already got. Right? So you're asking to be rewarded for being late to the party. Now, again, it's your right to ask for whatever you want. I would simply say the projects that we've seen succeed and have community backing are the ones that provide genuine, tangible community benefits. If you want a list of things that we need, I'm happy to help you with that. I know the city manager would be happy to help you with those things as well. And say, here's a list of things that the community really would appreciate to have if you want those extra 100% of the units. Right? Again, that is not by right, that is by request, and the request could be approved or denied based on the conditions set forth. And so I'm trying to give you a roadmap on how to have a project that could be successful, appreciated, and embraced by the community, and you do whatever you want with that information. I can only give you the best that I can. If you choose to use it, great. If not, that is really all up to you and the owner of the property. This commission, so far in my experience, has not been anti-development, but we are looking for responsible development, redevelopment, and as well something that has, again, you've heard me say that a dozen times, genuine, tangible community benefits.
I just had to stand up and correct one thing you've said. You're comparing residential density of 47 units to transient unit density, which is totally different. So it's not like we're asking for double the density that's allowable on the site. The density for the for transient units is allowable at 100 density. So there are two different densities, so please understand them. I just have to, I can't just let that pass.
I completely understand the difference, and the reality is you're entitled to 0 by right for what you're asking for, and you have to ask for everything. You're entitled to 0. So now you're absolutely right. You're not asking for double.
I'm not
You're
comparing. I
asking
just
from
didn't.
0 to 100.
The comparison of the two densities was out of whack, and I just wanted to make sure I made that clear. The density for transient is different than density for residential, and that comparison's a little bit.
I really wish you would hear me, because I'm trying to give you a roadmap to success.
I understand. I'm the architect. Sure. Okay, I'm not the sole judge of direction on this, and I'm here to defend and represent my clients.
And I'm speaking to you as much as the owner who's not present, and I hope she does hear me, and I hope you can come with a project that, genuinely is embraced by the community.
I understand that, and I just had to make comment on that one comparison because it's not an accurate one. Thank you.
Commissioners, Commissioner Maldonado.
Yeah, no, I don't want to rehash what was stated with the previous discussions. I agree wholeheartedly with everything that was said, that, we really need to get community input. And being the newest member to this commission and not having been influenced by any of the prior proceedings and meetings that took place with this, I can tell you that objectively that I did receive a lot of pushback against this, and that the district folks that I spoke with, they're not in favor of this, so I'm prepared to make a motion, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I make the motion to deny special magistrate recommendation to conclude a mediation between the City of St. Pete Beach and SunGold LLC for a modified proposal of the Windward Pass project, generally located at 3800 block of Gulf Block Boulevard, which was referred under conditional use permit 23085, ordinance 2024-08, and variance 24058 in May 2025.
I second.
City Clerk, if you'll please do a roll call.
Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott,
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Reznicki. Did we lose her? Mayor Petrilla?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Next, we have items for discussion. Commissioner Maldonado, you had one regarding dogs and leashes.
I do, Mr. Mayor, but I'd also like to just go back. I did reread the meeting procedures regarding motions and think that maybe we should go back and look at 6B. I'd like to get Attorney Brooks to just weigh in on that before we go any further.
I guess first of all, under section 1.03 of the charter, easements shall be vacated by a vote of 4 members of the commission. So that easement failed, but a continuance as proposed by Commissioner Robinson originally would not need 4. You could continue to a next meeting, and then you'd still need 4 to approve it at a next meeting. I guess the thought would be that the parties could come to some agreement between now and then. Otherwise, without the 4, and that easement failing, that would be an outright denial rather than a continuance. So if you'd like to make a motion to reconsider, and then first get a vote on whether you can reconsider, and then you'd make a motion to continue rather than approve.
Yeah, as long as we're in agreement.
In favor of that?
I'm in favor of that. I don't know, are we talking the next commission meeting, or what date are you looking at?
Yeah, I would just continue that to the 10th February.
And if there's no resolution at that point, we can continue.
Continue it again.
Let's make sure we have the date correct.
I'll be fine with that.
February 10th. We will put it on the agenda. If there's a resolution, then we can take it up at that time. If not, we could continue it again.
Perfect. All right. I'm for that. Can I make a motion, or you want to do it?
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, you made it.
Okay. I'll make a motion to
reconsider first.
reconsider.
And then you can stop at that, and then we'll get a second and vote on that, and then we'll...
Okay, reconsider Resolution 2026-01.
Second.
Take a roll call.
Vice Mayor Marriott?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Resnicki?
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado?
Yes.
Mayor Petrilla?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Get democracy working.
Now you can make the new motion.
Okay.
Okay, so officially I'll make a motion to reconsider Resolution 2026-01.
Motion to continue.
To continue to date certain.
February 10th.
Commission meeting for Resolution 2026, vacating a 3-foot easement located at the rear of lots 5 and 6 of Block C of Sunset Park replat as recorded in Plat Book 18, page 6 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida. 103 24th Avenue.
I second.
City Clerk, if you'll please do a roll call.
Commissioner Robinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Resnicki?
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marriott?
Yes.
Commissioner, Mayor Petrilla?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right. Items for discussion. Dogs.
Yeah, so again, thank you, Commission. So dogs off leash, I'll start with the first with the bad. And I have received numerous concerns. I don't want to say the word complaint because I'm not in the complaint business. I'm not code enforcement, but there's a lot of concerns about dogs being off leash and being in Del Mar Park. On Sunday, I received 2 frantic calls from a resident who felt threatened by a dog that was running around. And I've pleaded with the community. I've asked that folks, just do the neighborly thing, the right thing. And it seems to fall on deaf ears. A lot of that might do with the fact that some folks just aren't attending the meetings or just not reading the signs. But what I'm asking for is that we become a little bit more aggressive in enforcing existing ordinances. The sheriff has been great about coming out and talking to people, but there's no record of who they're encountering, and it's just getting to the point where something's going to happen. Something is either going to result in an injury of a person or a pet, and then this service dogs, they've got to be on leashes. I mean, that's Florida law. That's not St. Pete Beach law, but we need to be more diligent about enforcing that. So I would like to ask for the support of this commission in enforcing those more stringently. You know, we've been open-handed, very kind, you know, with dogs doing things that they shouldn't be doing. It's not their fault, they're animals. It's the residents, it's the people, in some cases even visitors. But I do think that we need to, you know, start using a more aggressive approach in dealing with that, so.
Can you just tell me again the park that you're having?
Vina Del Mar Park in particular.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Reznicki?
Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner, for bringing that up. We have similar, I think, and I'll just speak for District 3 and the parks that I've seen in Bella Vista, at the Dawn in Lazarillo. I know, City Manager, you're asking about parks, but just in my district alone as well, I mean, we see, I go with my daughter, you know, and we see dogs running through the sidewalks, in the tennis courts, on the playground, off leash. So this is not just Vina, and I'm not going to speak for the other districts, but you know, how do we come to a solution, right? Because we don't have enforcement everywhere, and you know, and I don't know if that's, I just don't know what the solution is, or what we can do, or what we can suggest, because it's prevalent. It's on the beach. It's you know, it's in the streets. You know, I see residents walking dogs along the sidewalk from Paso Gro Way all the way through Gulf Boulevard without dogs on a leash. You know, so yeah, it is a problem. I just don't know how we address it.
Thank you. So prior to this, we previously were working with the Sheriff's Office, in particular with dogs off leash on beaches. We have ramped up that enforcement and have been seeing some improvement. There are challenges with dogs on the beach, but dogs off leash should not be a challenge. That is a clear Florida statute. So we'll work with the Sheriff's Office to ramp up enforcement in neighborhoods for this issue.
Thank you.
Okay, so now for the good news. Dogs off leash. So I was watching the 26th January Parks and Recs meeting, and it was announced that the area formerly known as the Dog Beach is not legally a beach. It's actually a sandbar, and therefore the decision was made by the city that the signs will be removed at some point, and at that point this area will now become off leash. Folks can go out there, they can do as they please because it's not city property. So I just want to make sure that I understood that. Is that correct?
There's one clarifying point that I'm waiting on the Sheriff's Office for, because there are some county ordinances related to dogs off leash, and so before we make a formal announcement and change signs, we were waiting for the Sheriff's Office to give us clearance.
Perfect, and thank you for clarifying that, because, you know, once a city employee says that in a public forum, then at that point, folks think it's hats off and, you know, run around free. I would also, you know, just proactively start to look at that if that is the case, it's no longer city property, maybe part of the allure. You know, we talked about bringing and attracting more tourists, more visitors, and things like that. Part of it might be a rebranding of that area. So maybe I'll get some community input and buy-in from the commission on a new name. You know, just playing around with it really briefly on the way down here, I thought that it would be neat to call it something like Paw Bay or something neat, you know, get a mural or something like that. But this is something that we can embrace, right? This is not a bad thing for the community. We're ceding some property, but at the same time, this may be a draw for visitors. So we just need to figure out what is permissible and what the county rules say. So thank you for clarifying that. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson?
The first issue, I just wanted to bring up, Paso Grill has employee parking passes for employees to be able to park in some of the city spots, or the pay spots. They believe they get a $25 a year, I don't know if it's a tag or what it is, but they're able to park along in some of the spots. There is an issue with Upham because there are businesses there that do not have that option. So I'd like to consider looking at what we can extend to the very few businesses at Upham to be able to do the same thing we've done at Paso Grill. I think it's only fair to be able to extend that.
How many businesses are there?
I think there's one or two. The grill itself, it's in their contract or their lease with the city that they get 2 spots, but there's only one that's really right there. It's Cool Vibes.
So at the grill at Upton Beach, they have 2 designated employee parking spots, right?
Correct. It's part of their lease, and I'm looking at just if we can do the same thing that we do to other, I'm not sure, I'm assuming that we do something similar with the lease over at Paso Grill. That being said, the other one I'm talking about is there's evidently a 4B pass, employee parking pass, that goes out to other people. That's a $25 a year fee that you pay, and it's for employees. So just looking at trying to extend something similar or the same to the folks over at Upham. I mean, it's one business in particular. There's no spots for his employees to park.
So would they be willing to give up those 2 other spots?
Who give up the 2 other spots?
Well, Paso Grill doesn't have any designated employee-only parking spots, right? So they get parking passes.
They get parking passes, correct.
So Upton Beach has designated employee-only parking spots, and they would also get, or would they be the same as Paso Grill, where Paso Grill doesn't have employee parking, but they can park anywhere with a parking pass?
I'm not sure how that works exactly on Paso Grill, but I was told that there is the 4B parking pass for them. And that with the grill on Upham Beach, they get as part of their lease the 2 employee spots.
And so they don't have, I'm trying to understand what the problem is so we can find a solution.
So
they don't have enough parking for the employees?
Correct, they've got
Whole
one
different-
spot.
Whole different business.
Whole different business.
Which other business?
It's called Cool Vibes on Sunset Way.
A place that used to be Russian Nights, though you might not have been.
Okay. Thank you. Just trying to get.
And I do, understand.
What the issue is.
They have one spot that ends up getting taken up, and they're constantly having to fight to get that. Because everything else is permit only and pay.
I can address.
We have a parking study coming up.
Yes, so I can address this in the context of the parking study, which is tracking to Finance Committee on February 4th. And then we're coming to you for first and second reading direct out of committee. So I'm asking staff right now to make sure that, 1, the fees established, and 2, what are the rules around issuing those particular permits?
Okay. You mean especially for, I mean, I don't know what the rules are around
Right.
what's being issued on 4B and Paso Grill.
Yeah. So want to define that.
So
more.
a clarification
Define
on
it
that.
clearly, understand what
Perfect.
we're doing, and then apply it consistently.
And then the other one is, I was speaking with a resident, and they had asked about this, and I guess there might be a lot of residents that don't realize to send an email to us. There's the City Commission at stpetebeach.org that will get to all of us, versus sending one individually or sending it all individually. The point on that is being able to share the info that we get or the input that we get, especially on voting issues, to be able to send that back to the clerk so the clerk can redistribute it to the other commissioners. If you were to get one that's just to you, but you needed to share it so everybody knew the input across the board. I think that's only fair. Right now, I don't know who all's doing that, but the particular resident mentioned AI, being able to do it as an AI function. And if that's something we can check on as a search, so that we can make sure that we are all getting the same info.
So,
Especially, again, on voting issues.
so I asked the city clerk this, a parallel question about a week ago, where maybe a simpler approach would be to create an organizational, just like that city commission for each board and committee, if I understand your question, or is it?
It's commission only.
Only commission only.
I'm not talking board or committee.
Okay.
I mean, you could go to that level as well.
Yeah.
But again, we're looking at, I'm talking, more importantly, voting issues.
Yeah, so normally, I just want to make sure I understand this too, because this comes up, and it comes up all the time. If I get something and someone asks me to share it with the commission or, a member of the staff or something, I usually send it through the city clerk, one for the sunshine laws, but two for tracking and visibility. But is that what you're asking? I don't
I
understand.
think the issue is, if I correct me, please. Sometimes I receive an email, you receive an email, and I've seen plenty where
They're excluding
it's
people.
including, it might be just the two of us on the
Okay.
email chain, but it might be an issue that
Yeah.
is pertinent to everyone because we're voting on it. I think we can just call it the gentleman's agreement, that if that comes up, we would just forward those emails so that everybody else has access to the information and the data. I don't know that we need.
You shouldn't be
AI
forwarding them to
scrubbing.
each other, you
not
should be
directly.
forwarding them to the clerk.
Yeah.
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 I don't think we need an AI scrubbing our emails and deciding what needs to go to everyone. So,
Yeah, there's a lot of
Just,
chance.
it was a suggestion.
I think we can go with the lowest tech solution, which
Okay.
is, so I'll say if I receive an email that only comes to me or just me and one other commissioner, and it's on a voting issue, I'll make sure it gets forwarded. I'm sure y'all will do the same, so.
Okay.
And the city clerk does a great job of redacting just enough information where we're not even getting close to the sunshine law, so I'm comfortable with that.
So just for the record, because we'll update your handbook for future reference, there's an agreement amongst the commissioners that if you receive an email from a constituent regarding a voting matter, that you would automatically, and it's not included with the entire commission, you would forward it to the city clerk for distribution. Is that accurately?
I think
Let me
that's-
go to my training manual. I think I'm the only one that refers to this still. So, yeah.
Perfect.
It's in there.
It's humanly possible, because sometimes you just miss stuff. Yeah.
And there's a good faith effort. How about those? I'll use those words.
That's
Okay.
exactly what I was looking for. All right, Commissioner Reznicki, you have an update for us, please?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, and for letting me join the meeting virtually this evening. I know there was a couple of issues, but I got back on. I am still obviously in Tallahassee representing St. Pete Beach and advocating on behalf of our residents. Today I met with legislators to oppose several bills that could harm or continue to harm the financial well-being of our city and to strongly defend the municipal home rule. Protecting our ability to govern locally and maintain stable, responsible funding is essential to the services of our community, which we rely on. And I appreciate the support you all gave in me coming here to work to ensure our city's voice is heard at a state level. Today I was working to oppose proposals that would reduce or eliminate property taxes without providing replacement revenue and addressing concerns with Senate Bill 180 and supporting Senator DeZiglier's Senate Bill 840, which strengthens the local authority. I'm also opposing changes to sovereign immunity in House Bill 145, which will increase our liabilities and potentially increase city insurances. But I will also encourage to continue to support the Senate bill side. But there's still a lot of changes happening daily. So you got to kind of stay abreast to that. Also opposing efforts to restrict or eliminate local business taxes to the municipalities under the Senate Bill 122 and House Bill 103. At the same time, supporting improvements to public meeting requirements in Senate Bill 332 and House Bill 655. This does enhance the transparency and resident access, but it also helps the cities when we receive a pre-suit notice on Bert Harris case. It allows the cities to have private meetings, preventing high legal fees that sometimes could help cities solve, that case sooner. So it's a good one. The focus here is simple, just to protect the financial well-being of St. Pete Beach and defend municipal home rule, and also to continue making decisions that reflect the needs of our community. I want to make sure that our voice is heard. So today, and I'll go over some of the things that I did join the Suncoast League of Cities under the Florida League of Cities on some issues that we went as a collective group to several legislators, being the property tax, the sovereign immunity, the local business tax, as well as DeSiglier's House Bill, or Senate Bill, 840, and the public meetings. But I went to a couple of committee meetings as well. I mean, we're talking about 1,200 bills, about 200 or more, closer to 300 bills that affect municipalities. They're talking about things like permitting, being handled at a state level, tourist development dollars. They are questioning it, and I was kind of excited about it because a possibility for more for municipalities. Also things like Florida Starter Homes Act. We were talking about earlier even about the CRA. This Florida Starter Home Act at a state level will allow a lot to be divided into up to 4 smaller lots with no say of the municipality, with no say on the zoning, to become duplexes or triplexes or townhomes. And I know we were talking about square footage earlier, but again, we would have no say. One of the committee meetings that I went today too, things that are being thrown around by the House. I was at the House committee meeting that back in 2020, since 2020 to now, they believe there's been a 70% increase in revenue at Ad Valorem, based off of nothing, no numbers, but several cities presenting, which I gave ours. I think you all were forwarded today from our lobbyist, Shoemaker, the white paper that we're going to be using tomorrow morning that kind of goes over the revenues and what we're going to be asking for. So hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. Maybe not, but what I'm asking for before I wrap up is really if there's anything further that you would like for me to raise tomorrow. I will be starting at 8:30 in the morning all the way to 5 p.m. going to different legislators on anything that is specific to St. Pete Beach. So I will be going with Jim Taylor, visiting different representatives and senators. So our voices is important. So if there's anything you could think of or anything that you're watching, there's many bills out there, and they're not asking us. So things can happen at a state level that can impact what we're doing in our city. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reznicki. Appreciate the report, and thank you for taking the time to go up there. And thank you to our state lobbyist. I know Jim's been excellent to work with, setting up those meetings, making the different senators and House representatives available for you to meet with them. So I appreciate the effort. On that same note, the reason I didn't go up there this week is because I want to make sure that we have a quorum here. And so I'll be going next week. Again, some of the same issues that keep coming up. We need funding for some of the projects that we have, especially for resiliency, emergency services, and we certainly, the erosion of home rule has just been something that has been happening on a continual basis, and you keep hearing it from all the bills that you mentioned. every one of them wants to eliminate one more piece of home rule, one more piece of home rule, as if somehow the way that Miami Beach does business is the way that we want to do business, or the way that Jacksonville does business, or the way that Ocala does business, or Okeechobee or any other place. We have so many different parts of Florida that are so variedly different. I mean, you can have horse country on one side, you can have swamp on the other, you can have beaches over here, right? I mean, it's just, you've got orange groves, tomato groves. I mean, it's a huge, vast state. We've got 2 different time zones, and so I think it's important. I appreciate what you've done to kind of champion that. I know the Florida League of Cities is a huge champion on behalf of our cities for home rule. And so I hope to be able to represent the city in that next week in Tallahassee. And I appreciate Jim setting up all those meetings for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have staff report. City Clerk.
Nothing from me, thank you.
All right, City Manager.
Nothing to report.
Nothing further this evening?
District 4.
Huge thank you to the city and staff for their work at Vina Del Mar Park. The maintenance that's gone on this month has been incredible. It's noticed, especially with the sidewalks that have been repaved, huge safety concern. The trees have been pruned, water, everything's working except the dog's off leash, which you can't control. But thank you so much. I just wanted to announce that my next meeting will be 2 February at 6 p.m. at the Warren Webster. That is not on the 9th, and that's to deconflict with an upcoming event here in the city. So 2 February, 6 p.m., Warren Webster. Be there or be square.
Commissioner Reznicki.
Thank you. There's a couple of community meetings coming up, or different neighborhood meetings or associations. One change was the Lido Park Association meeting was moved to the 5th, so February 5th at 6. The Don Cesar's annual meeting, still the same. That there's no change on that one, but they do have an additional meeting, I believe. I lost it. Sorry, Bella Vista is on February 12th at 6:30, and I believe that's it.
And what was the date for the Don Cesar? The date for the Don Cesar?
Sorry, thank you.
The date for the Don Cesar?
I did this the last time, and then I told you. It didn't change. It's the same. I thought I had told you. Hold on. I'm sorry. Technical difficulties. I will let you know in a second, Mayor.
We'll let you look it up, and we'll go on to Commissioner Robinson.
Thank you, and nothing to report.
Commissioner Marriott.
Sure. I just wanted to pass on the thanks to our Public Services Department. I had several residents up on the north end of Boca Ciega that were having some issues with the construction of pump station number 1, and they have been just absolutely had nothing but fantastic things to say about Camden and his team with Public Services, who have worked really hard to help them solve the problem and get things sorted out. So I wanted to pass that on. They're doing a great job. And my next event will be on February 17th at Mastery's Brewing at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Reznicki.
I got it. I didn't want to. I'm using my phone as a hotspot, so that's why I don't want to lose you. So I'm doing a search. It's on February 19th at 6 o'clock.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, thank you. The only item I have is the one Commissioner Maldonado alluded to. We have a mayoral forum right here in Chambers on February 9th. It'll be, I believe that's also for commissioners of District 3, right? Okay, 6 p.m. for commissioners, 7 p.m. for the mayoral forum. We'll be right here in Chambers. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.